Hello, Darklings. Welcome to a night where fear reigns, nightmares come to life, and your darkest fantasies take center stage. You've just entered Freaky Friday, the flash fiction competition where horror meets creativity, and things are about to get deliciously disturbing. Now, before we dive into tonight's terrifying tales, let me tickle your funny bone. Why do skeletons always stay so calm? Because nothing gets under their skin. But tonight, Darklings, we're not here to stay calm. No, we're here to listen to the first 6 stories, each one more chilling than the last. Our finalists have poured their darkest, most twisted imaginations onto the page, and now it's your turn to bear witness to their terror. And as any good ritual requires, we need a few sacrifices. Don't worry, these ones volunteered. Meet your hosts for the evening, Kaufman and Penelope Hartley. Trust me, darlings, you're in wickedly capable hands tonight.
Welcome, my friends. I was like going through our technical difficulties with Jezebel, always. Jezebel's never going to make it easy for us.
Never.
I am so excited. I'm so stoked to have all you here. I'm all prepared. I have my book of spells and my own skeleton coming from my own closets. He's hiding in the background. Oh man, I am super stoked. Welcome to Freaky Friday. We are so thrilled to have you guys here, and we have been looking forward to this. How's everyone doing? Talk about like the first super fun holiday writing event. Oh man, Jezebel. Whew. I was like, Jezebel's always throwing me for a loop over here. Penelope, how do you think the stories are going to do today?
I think they're going to be spooktacular. I'm really excited about them. They're going to be so much fun. It is going to be great to finally get these stories out there, pulled down from the ether and into your television sets.
For those of you who don't know, this is the first day, Freaky Friday, of the Flash Fiction Competition. We're going to be reading and going through 6 of the contestants, the finalist stories. And we've invited some friends today, some authors, some readers to help us really give those stories some extra flair. This has been an exciting event to prep for. I am so glad to see everybody here in the stream. I think I see all of our regulars. I see Bobby, Mary, Courtney, Marta, LeMay, Dana, Shulky. I'm like making sure Brock, seeing some of our contestants here, and Nil, ML. Love seeing everybody here. Kurtis, I'm like, oh, I'm so stoked. All right, guys, like this is going to be bomb.com. I had to make sure that I dressed up accordingly in the occasion. I was like, I got my spooky Joker-ish attire. I'm like, maybe tomorrow we'll go all in. We'll see what the skeletons have in store for us tomorrow. Oof. Who are you today, Penelope?
Who am I today? That's a very interesting question, Jim.
How do you feel about that?
I don't have feelings. I have locked those feelings away in a dark, dark place, and I do not ever go in there because I am a Vulcan. Well,
I think give in to your feelings. Give in to your feelings.
No! Okay, maybe
man.
Just for the competition.
Competition. Logic versus emotion. What better competition? Who's actually going to read stories today? We're just going to debate logic and emotion.
Right.
Or maybe some of these stories will be debating just that as they share skeletons. We have skeletons, vampires, zombies. We have the whole mix of spookiness.
Serial killers, strange.
Twilight man, my favorite serial killers, you know.
Yes. I'm particularly fond of the vampires myself. Old school.
Ooh, I think the vampires are going to be fun. I was like, I don't know. What happens if a Vulcan gets turned into a vampire?
That's a highly illogical question, Jim.
There's no illogical questions in this conversation. We we'll strike them with our pistols and Move on.
We'll ray gun them, and apparently they get elf ears.
They get elf ears.
Elf ears. You know,
so wait, are vampires Vulcans or are Vulcans vampires?
I don't know. Well, they're Romulans, I believe. They're Romulans at that point. Romulans are far more vampiric than Vulcans are.
By the way, if you're here in the live stream, welcome. We would love to hear, are you dressed up in a costume today? Drop it down in the comments. What is your Halloween costume? What's your Freaky Friday costume? Because I know we and Penelope and Miss Jezebel want to know. Would love to hear
it. Jezebel wants to know what you're wearing.
You're like, dang it, Jared, she's a Vulcan, not a vampire. I was like, but I thought maybe we'll turn her into a vampire because I'm just that crazy.
Somebody needs to write that fanfic. It's the Twilight Star Trek crossover you didn't know you wanted.
Exactly. And I think WTC has a great costume today. I'm in a costume. I'm dressed up as a responsible adult.
That is so scary.
That's the scariest one. That's called adulting.
So far, yes. I've adulted. I once, like 3 years ago on a Tuesday. I hated it.
So as we get into the competition today, we have 6 of the 12 stories that we're going to be reading. And let me pull up our schedule of events. So I'm going to pull this up right now. So our Freaky Friday competition schedule. Let's see if I can get it pulled up correctly. Excellent. So for those of you who have not seen our schedule, this is what the competition looks like today. We're going to be diving into all 6 of these stories. Obviously, for those of you who jumped into our Halloween costume party, thank you. Thank you for joining us in the Discord. I'm glad I was able to make a quick appearance. I'm glad that Jezebel let me out of her cage. Oh no, I meant I escaped. I escaped the cage. Let's go with that one. So with what we have today, we're going to be doing round A first. That goes over the first 3 of the flash fiction stories: The Assignment, Maurie's Dilemma, and If They Find the Bodies. Then at the conclusion of each round, we're going to be doing the live voting. So make sure that you're sticking around for the live voting of each round. Mm-hmm. After that, we will hop into round B, which is going to include Late Night Appointments, which was later retitled to Mr., but happened after the launch of this ad set. So that will be fixed in the anthology.
Yes.
And then after that, we have Adaptation and Short on Breath, bringing up the end of round B. Once we get through those stories, we are going to be voting on round B. Now, if you want to hear, and I'll pull ourselves back up, if you want to hear who the winners are, you're going to have to come back tomorrow. You're going to have to come back with your ghouls and your skeletons and your zombies and come join us. If you want to come see who the winner is crowned, come vote on round C and D. It is going to be a spooky Saturday to remember. So let me drop that, and Penelope, bring you back up here. So how do you feel about that schedule? How do you feel about our lineup for today?
I feel incredible about that. I have had the opportunity to sample all of the stories that we'll be reading today, and they are all marvelously wicked. I think that marvelously wicked. Jezebel enjoyed all of them, I know. We have some we really kind of started it off with the big spooktacular ones. I think it's right into that creative, imaginative depths of human psyche that I really enjoy calling. I love Halloween, and it's always fun to see how the things that are in the skeletons that people have in their closets, or the darkness, the dark shadows that they want to dance with, how those things come out in their writing. And we're going to have such a delectable taste of that.
It was so difficult. It was so difficult to choose. Penelope, I actually kind of want to hear your thoughts on how we started this competition. But before that, I just want to give a real quick call out to some incredible costumes. We got our Gothic princess. We got Dracula of the 23rd century. We got some voodoo, Papa Legba. Absolutely loved it. ML, I think, has my favorite costume so far. By the way, like when we hopped over there, I think ML, you have my favorite costume. Who doesn't love voodoo?
So creepy.
Ooh, and then Tiara is like, I'm not at work, so I'm not dressed up, but I'm gonna be Elaine from the Love Witch for Halloween.
Ooh, very cool. Very cool.
I was like, that sounds great. I'm not actually sure what the Love Witch is, but that's probably a best-selling novel of some type.
I saw the movie. The movie was
is it a movie?
Incredible bit of indie horror from like the late 2010s, and it was
the only witch that I know is Alphaba in part 1 of Wicked this holiday season. I'm looking forward to.
That's gonna be a romp. I started that book. It was actually really good.
Well, the book's actually really good. The musical is just completely different. It's completely different. But I think the book does a great job of how do you create an anti-hero from a pre-existing franchise and then giving them a brand new story.
Ooh, I really like that about Maleficent. So I bet I would like that.
Maleficent did that as well, which was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Absolutely. So we have some cool costumes here. I'm glad we're not the only skeletons coming out of the closet.
Right.
And I know this has been such a journey to get to this point, to be able to get to the competition itself. So we're going to be starting with the first live reading in just a couple minutes. So for those of you who are ready to tune in, stick around. Now, before we do, Penelope, I kind of want to hear your thoughts. How has this competition, how's it felt like for you? For like any of our new viewers who don't know anything about the competition, what's the history been like a little bit?
A little bit of the history is I've flown across the universe, Jim. Yes, even from the final frontier, only to land right here just in time for this extraordinary event. And believe me, it's going to be fascinating. When I first approached Coffin about this creative writing competition, I had no idea what to expect. I knew what he was doing with live streaming and creative writing, and I knew that was a direction I wanted to explore. Little did either of us know 3 months later, that not only would we be combining two of my favorite things, creative writing and Halloween, but we'd been hosting an entire 2-day event. So I'm just really excited and grateful to be part of this community and a part of a community that allows things like this to come to fruition and get excited about it. Having the opportunity to explore storytelling alongside such talented creatives has been a journey I've been so thrilled to be on. So I can't see where this takes us this weekend. It is going to be a scream fest.
And like the stories that were submitted are so good. Yes. And I feel like, I mean, we had troubles literally even refining it to the top 12. And even after the top 12, I'm like, I have no clue who's going to win.
Yeah.
I was like, I have absolutely, because there's such different genres, different vibes, all in the spooky genre, but just different types of stories. Yes. So like, I'm like, okay, so are people just going to invite all their friends to vote for their story? Are the friends going to show up and be like, well, I actually like this story better? Or like, I feel like there's so many possibilities.
There's some really tough competition today. I mean, we've got not only different styles, but also different genres. So, well, thrillers, horror. We have some true ghost stories. I mean, just a little bit of everything that is going to be such, for any horror connoisseur, this is just going to be too much fun. Because there's so many things going on. Yeah. And
I think one of the cool things about this was that I really wanted to give a lot of the writers in our community a chance to be a published author, get that published author credit if they didn't have anything published yet up until this point, or just gaining an additional credit to their resume, which is why I'm so happy to announce, I know we've mentioned it briefly, but we have officially launched the Freaky Friday Fiction Anthology. So we officially have the anthology, which is so cool. Now, what is the Freaky Friday Flash Fiction Anthology? Let me make sure I can bring it up here. Perfect. So as this was our official cover, for those of you who voted on the anthology, you guys know that you got to vote on different covers for it. This was the official cover that you, the community, voted on. Now, for the book itself, for those of you who want to get a copy of it, there's going to be a couple ways. So the Amazon link, or the Amazon book, because we got it put together so last minute, it probably won't launch until tomorrow. So if you want to go over to Amazon tomorrow, we'll re-announce it. But we set up another way for people to be able to get the book. And I officially launched the beginning of the YouTube WriteNow member. So if you want to get an official copy of the book, and this is, of course, outside of our finalists will be sent a copy of it at the end of the competition. But outside of our finalists, if you want to subscribe to become a WriteNow member, all you have to do is down below the video, there is a join button. Join, and you will become a member. It is $5 a month. Now, on Amazon, the book itself is only going to be $2.99. I decided, based on the community request, to add something else, which I know the community has been dying for. I've decided to try out. We're going to do this for a couple months, which is why I started at the $4.99 price. I'm adding a critique group. So for anybody who signs up to become a WriteNow member through the YouTube WriteNow community, I'm starting with a once a month critique group. You have to be a member to be involved. You'll receive details, and it's basically going to be your once a month commitment. The way I look at it is $5 gets you the Flash Fiction Anthology, which is the 12 stories, and then it also gets you access to this critique group. Now, the critique group is my commitment to you to create a good experience. It will be a closed group. We'll still do it as a live session, but it will be a closed live session only to members. So if up until this point, you're like, hey, I'm not sure if I should share in front of a live community, this is going to be a closed community. So that way you're going to get the chance to read your work yourself and get feedback from other writers. So it's going to be a really, really great experience. All right, beautiful. So I wanted to make sure to shout that out. And if you want to support the community, don't worry, we got you covered. You can support it down in the super chats and the super tip down below. So if there's a story that really speaks to you, let us know. Help grow the community. All the funds are going to growing the Discord so we can get more cool things, more awareness, more things, more marketing, more stuff to bring more writers here. So I am stoked. That was the beginning of the anthology. I'll show a little bit more of it later on in the stream.
Yeah.
But I think now is the time.
Is it now?
I think we're ready for the round A of our Flash fiction stories.
All right, if you say so.
Ooh, all right. I'm like, I don't know what to expect. Okay.
Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
So we're going to be starting round A. Let's see. We'll be starting round A, and let me see what I got here.
The starting of the round will be A, and A will be the starting of the round.
Let's see. What do we got here? So round A. Well, we had that, but YouTube messes with me. So I will instead pull up our.
Are you sure it's not Jezebel? It's probably Jezebel. Jezebel. Me.
Assignment by M.L. Claxon. Ready for a sleepless night? M.L. Claxon's tale of a haunted investigator facing ancient, primal terror will keep you up long after the forest falls silent.
Welcome from Releasing Your Inner Dragon and the Writer's Room, Drake. Welcome, my friend. And let me unmute you. Welcome to the stream.
Happy to be here.
You're like, well, we'll see if we can make it through all our technical difficulties. I was like, I know I'm pretty entertained over here. So awesome. So let me pull up, for some reason, like I said, after 300 live streams, I've never had this happen so consistently before. I think we're definitely in the Halloween spooky vibe over here. So I'm going to pull up on my end. Let me pull up the story for the audience. We're going to hop straight into ML's The Assignment, and we will get into it. Thank you so much for being a reader. And by the way, Drake, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick to our community?
Sure. I'm Maxwell Alexander Drake. I go by Drake. I was the former lead fiction writer for Sony's EverQuest Next. I am the official writer for Harnworld. I'm an award-winning novelist, award-winning screenplay writer. I've worked pretty much in every medium now, everything from Hollywood to TV to stage plays to novels and comics and games, obviously.
All right, beautiful. So I think I have it pulled up here on the screen. Perfect. And let me pull it up so our community can listen. All right, awesome. So here's the blurb. Here's that. I'm going to drop myself and I will let you do your thing, my friend. You're welcome to start whenever you're ready.
So you want me to read the
Mhm.
blurb as well?
So what you can do is you can read the story, and let's pull this up. Let's see. Let me pull it up real fast.
Now I also have
Yeah.
the
So
story pulled up on my computer.
what was that?
I also have the story pulled up on my computer, so
Yeah, I was like, why don't you? You can probably read it from your computer. That's fine, and then we'll just show this on the screen for you.
Okay.
Perfect.
The Assignment by M.L. Claxon. What the hell was that? Wide awake again. I hate these woods and all the strange sounds that come out every night. This assignment is going to be the death of me. Sleep? I hadn't slept a full night since moving into this decrepit rental cabin deep in Kentucky's Daniel Boone National Forest. Unsurprisingly, I was a city boy, more accustomed to sirens than cicadas. I don't know why I stumbled over that word. More accustomed to sirens than cicadas. The forest surrounding the cottage was dense and shadowy, with trees pressing in on all sides. Every noise in the night had started making me jump. Shit. I was becoming paranoid. Tonight, the full moon's light flooded through the window, casting long shadows. I couldn't help but examine each shadowy silhouette as it crossed the floor. I need some rest for one damn night. These phantoms had my sleep deprived mind drifting back to the suspect's feral eyes in Boston. I'd faced danger before. Hell, that Boston alley. But it felt different here. Primal. Final. After the botched job, my cousin had assured me everything would be okay, but my uncle had sent me here to rot. A punishment. No more high-stakes assignments. Just a cold case no one cared about. A college girl murdered 10 years ago. A wild goose chase for a monster long gone. This was nothing new. After my father's death, the family's business never gave me any real responsibility. One damn minor mistake. Staring at the alarm clock, the glowing red light read 3:33 a.m. Maybe eating something would help with my insomnia. I stumbled my way to the kitchen in the dark. Rubbing my bloodshot eyes, I stood in the light from the refrigerator, trying to decide which items were still within their expiration dates. An unpleasant odor wafted from the containers of forgotten leftovers that had transformed into science experiments. Shit, is this what I've been smelling all week? No, those smells had reeked of piss. I found the leftover fried rice from the Chinese takeout when something struck outside the cabin. My head whipped up to locate the source, and I dropped the paper container onto the floor. Shit. I knelt, scooping the greasy rice back into the container as another crash echoed from somewhere outside. The refrigerator door slammed closed, and I dropped the container from my shaking hands, adding to the pile of rice on the tiles. Damn nerves had me fumbling with the rice, just like my gun with the Boston incident. Something clawed at the thin wooden door. Cold sweat ran down my back as I struggled to take shallow breaths in the middle of the now pitch-black kitchen. No more moonlight. Has something covered the window over the sink? This was laughable. Hadn't I faced worse things in all my city jobs? The frantic clawing grew more intense, accompanied by the sound of the decaying veneer being torn apart. An eerie, low growl added to the cacophony of an otherworldly concert beyond the flimsy entrance. What is out there? Only 2 inches separated me from whatever was working hard to get into the cabin. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out the scraping. Was there a pair of feral eyes on the other side of that door? I needed something to defend myself, so I jumped to my feet and grabbed the closest thing I could, a butter knife. The butter knife was useless. I knew that, but it was all I had. You're as useless as your father, my uncle's voice growled in my mind. My bare feet stood in the middle of ice-cold rice. I was in nothing but my underwear. If I was going to die, why did I have to be found in only my briefs? Another crash echoed outside, louder this time. The doorknob rattled, and I was positive the structure would not survive. Damn it, my gun was next to the alarm clock. My heart leapt in my throat. I stood, frozen, eyes darting between the door and the useless butter knife in my hand. What good was this going to be? My hands trembled, causing me to drop the knife. Falling to my knees, I groped blindly in the dark, breathing shallow gasps. You dropped your gun. You dropped your damn gun. My uncle's voice echoed the same accusation, the same disappointment. I wasn't my father. I wasn't weak. I wasn't strong either. The wood groaned under the weight of something inhuman scraping against the entry. I wasn't sure of anything anymore. The air thickened with the smell of rot and death. I couldn't breathe. Was it here? I intensified my search for the elusive knife. The sound of the creaking door's rusty hinges replaced the rattling knob. Sinister shadows moved around the dark kitchen. Pulse hammering in my ears, drowning out everything. I heard the pause first. Slow, deliberate. Each step brought the smell of decay closer. My body wouldn't move. All I could do was wait. It was over. My heart raced, and I didn't dare glance behind me. I jumped to my feet, intending to sprint down the hallway. But as soon as I began moving, my feet slid on the pile of fried rice spread across the greasy tiles. My feet flew out from under me, and I crashed into the counter. The impact of my skull smacking the hard granite was like a gunshot in the quiet room. The sound echoed in my ears as I lay in a daze. I tried to assess my injuries. My head pounded and my vision blurred. Blood pooled around me. Why can't I move? I am going to die here without backup. The smell hit me first. Rotten, decayed, like the breath of something dead but still moving. I couldn't breathe. Was this the same odor I'd smelled around the cabin for over a week? Its hot breath grazed my neck. The thing behind me was too big. Its breath too hot. Too wrong. It wasn't just an animal, but something ancient. Something dark and feral. I wanted to scream, to fight. All I could do was wait. A low growl vibrated through my skull as drool dripped onto my cheek. I squeezed my eyes shut. The world faded into darkness. This was the end. Damn, my head hurts. Why is it so dark? I was told there would be a light. Death felt wrong. My mind was in chaos and my thoughts were jumbled. Why can't I move my arms? My arms were rendered motionless by the cold and the pressure of my body on the freezing tiles. I continued to put all my effort into moving any part of my body, but something wet and sticky pulled at my skin. My face felt glued to the floor by the cold liquid, although a stream of something warm ran down the side of my cheek. Shit, what is that metallic taste in my mouth? Iron? Copper? My mind raced through all the possibilities of what the damn metallic taste was when I picked up the stink of decay very close. What is that rancid smell? Death is strange. The darkness swallowed my thoughts, dragging me back into oblivion. Lying in the perpetual blackness, I heard a thump, thump, thump sound somewhere in the darkness. I lay there, motionless. Was I dead? I couldn't tell. The cold crept into my bones, but my heart was still pounding. I could feel it, thudding, slow, like it might stop any second. Shit, my shoulder ached. Had something bitten me? I couldn't remember. The ache was closer to a burning sensation. Had someone poured antiseptic onto my shoulder? The pain seared itself deep into my muscles like acid. Pain. Wasn't that supposed to be gone once you're dead? Thump, thump, thump. What is that rancid smell? Death is strange.
Drake, thank you so much for that. That was a really, really cool story. I know when I first went through that, I was like, what an interesting creature. What a really interesting plot and an interesting setting. So thank you for the really awesome reading. And now as we hop into it, so I want to hear from the community. What did you guys think about it? As we now think about discussing, what did you feel? What did you like? Was there anything that stood out by our author, M.L. Claxon, read here by Drake? So Drake, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you like about it?
I mean, I don't write a lot of flash fiction since I tend to write in the millions of words.
Us and our like 100 plus page word counts on average.
So the problem is, there's not a lot of time in flash fiction. And I think, it was really cool to get, it's almost like that Hitchcock kind of, it's more terrifying to not see the horror as opposed to seeing it. So I thought that was a really cool kind of way to bring it in.
I agree. I think what I absolutely love is the use of foreshadowing in there. I was like, he references like the things on the counter, like his place is kind of a mess. And then right as he's trying to get away, of course he trips on the rice. I'm like the things that spill on the counter. And I'm like, is this creature going to get him? Is it not going to get him? Is he dead? I don't know. Like, I can't tell at the very end if he's dead or not. What do you think? Do you think he died?
Or did he turn into something else?
Oh, I know. That's it. That's it. Yeah, I was like, I think he probably turned into the creature. And I was like, okay, well, I guess the assignment came after him. It's like, wow. Oh, man. Penelope, what do you think of it?
I think that one of the more terrifying aspects of it is that ambiguousness that we as because of the sensory details, you get sucked into the story, and then suddenly you are this guy lying on the ground trying to figure out what your death is like, what is creeping up on you. And I think that Hitchcockian, the more of the thrill, the more of the danger of the unknown, I think that is more terrifying because your brain starts to make things up in your, and it's so good. So good. I liked it. I really liked that.
Oh man. I like, do you guys think that was a werewolf? I'm like, what type of creature were we dealing with? I'm like, I think my bet goes on like maybe shapeshifter, changeling.
I know someone in the chat said something would be even more terrifying. They thought it might have been Shia LaBeouf.
Oh my god, did somebody say that? That cracks me up. Oh yeah, Shulky over here was like, part of my brain was imagining the Berwick creature, but then my dumb brain imagined Shia LaBeouf. Did you guys ever see that Shia LaBeouf song for like that popped up a couple years ago? That was, if you ever want to think about how do you turn a celebrity or how do you turn somebody into like a horror figure, like so well done. It was just some random YouTube video. And then when you think of Shia LaBeouf, he just stands up at the end. He's actually in the audience. Oh, so great. Nobody wants Shia LaBeouf haunting their dreams. Sorry, Shia. Oh, man. So I think that was really, really incredible. Let's move right along to our next story. So, Drake, thank you so much for doing that. Let me pull up what I got here. Hopefully, thank you for bearing with our technical difficulties today. It's so crazy. Like I said, I'm almost at 300 live streams. And of course, I could be at 300 live streams and still be dealing with technical difficulties. Maybe I'll still be dealing with it at 600. We'll see. We'll see what happens if I make it another 300.
That's what happens when you sell your soul to Jezebel. I warned you.
Ain't that the truth? All right, so let's see.
Raptor? Eli thought it was a raptor. Just heads up.
I thought it was a raptor.
Yeah, because it was an ancient creature, so mine went back to the ancient times.
All right, so let's get this next one queued up. So Drake, due to popular demand and then due to like my technical difficulties, I wasn't able to get the story up on the screen the first time, but I'll get it pulled up for this second one. I should be good. Let's see.
Maurie's Dilemma by Nil. How far would a father go to test his children's love? Nil weaves a devious tale where family bonds may fray as the sands of time drip away.
All right, so let me get this story queued up. Perfect. So this time, Drake, I'll have the story on the screen, so you can read either or. Totally up to you, Yurko.
From mine, so I can scroll through it.
Perfect.
Now, this one has way more dialogue and several different characters, and I don't do characters. There's a reason why my audiobooks are all cast, and I do the narration, and I let actors do all the character voices.
Well, we can tell that the audience definitely really enjoyed your narration. Thank you. There is like maybe one survived deep in the swamps. Terrifying story. I enjoyed that. So it sounds like they really were enjoying the experience. Absolutely. I think this one's probably way more perfect to be able to show it on the screen. So I think this will work out really well. Totally don't mind me at all. You're welcome to do your thing and start whenever you'd like.
Get to see when I mess up on a few lines and just keep going.
They'll be like, that word's not there.
That word wasn't there. There was a couple of those where I just was like, man, it's done. We're going.
All right, my friend. And go for our second story, Maurie's Dilemma, whenever you're ready.
Maurie's Dilemma by Neil. Parents say they can't pick their favorite child, but I regret the two of you equally. Maurie's grave voice pierced his daughter Ashley's heart. Her brother Dustin sat beside her on a cold metal chair, unfazed on his phone. The video she was watching paused, and the mansion fell silent. Ashley was tapped hard on the head and spun in her chair to see a person so thin their face was more skull than skin, dressed in black pants and a red shirt. Ow! I thought this was a will reading. Who are you? My name is Executor, Mr. X. Not surprised you skipped the funeral, but made it to the will. Your father was a wise man. He knew money would get your attention. X snatched the phone from their hands with ease when they tugged back. The terms of your dad's will demand you watch the entire in memoriam film before it's carried out. Did he ever tell you about me? I was there when he made his sudden fortune. The humorous movie, whatever. Like I said, some words are really tough for me for some reason. The posthumous movie restarted at high volume, and Ashley covered her ears while Maurie expressed disappointment in her for being too busy with work to see him. Her brother Dustin gazed off in the distance when Maurie conveyed feeling betrayed by his cons for money. In the final clip, with tear-filled eyes, Maurie said goodbye. I always loved you both. I love you too, Ashley wanted to say, unable to find the words. Your father's will has rather unique stipulations, X decreed to the entitled children with a wide, bony grin. He handed them pens and a contract. Together they clicked the pens and yelled as their thumbs bled. Ashley joined her brother in complaining, but it was ignored. Press your thumb to sign or forfeit the inheritance. Dustin's Dilemma. Ashley followed X as Dustin lagged behind on their way to the elevator. She hated growing up there. The walls were made of concrete in the style of 70s brutalism, and she shivered in the lack of heat. Next to the lift, her attention was drawn to a beautiful hourglass the size of a person, filled with water instead of sand. Inspecting the peculiar new addition, she noticed the 12 hourly Roman numerals. Water dripped every 10 seconds and echoed off the cement walls. Ashley was told to get in the elevator while Dustin waited outside. The door locked behind. "What's going on?" she heard X speak. "Dustin, you can choose to take the keys to Maurie's prized Rolls Royce, but if you do, your sister will face her biggest fear in there, something that might make her sick. Your father fought cancer for a long time and was ill from chemo. How often did you two visit? If you can decline the car, she will walk free. You have 6 drops to decide." Ashley banged on the door, pleading, "Let me out. I'm scared. Please, Dusty. It's just a car. Don't do it." Dustin curled his fingers around the keys and smirked by the second drop of water. In the elevator, the ceiling opened and insects rained down. Ashley gasped to hold her breath. Thousands of feet scurried up her legs to her head as she slapped her face in reckless disregard. She exhaled briefly, praying it would stop, but the shower continued. "You asshole!" she screamed. Her hair was a hissing nest, and the cockroaches, snakes, spiders, and centipedes piled neck high, scurrying over her hyperventilating chest. Outside, Dustin put his head to his hand as he paced back and forth to the watery tides of the hourglass, like a metronome pounding louder as Ashley's screams increased. Ashley's dilemma. The elevator opened and Ashley spilled out in a pile of bugs, covered in stings, her face swollen to twice the size. All the creatures crawled back on the elevator, which descended to the basement and returned empty. She bolted at Dustin, shoving him, and pounded on his chest. X tore them apart, pushed Ashley aside, and threw Dustin into the elevator, which locked behind him. X spoke to the victim. "Now it's your turn. You can choose your mom's wedding ring, but will give up the chance to repay your brother. If you pass on the ring, he will have to face his biggest fear, something that might make him feel alone. Your father cared for your mother with dementia by himself for a long time. How often did you help? Same as before, 6 drops of water to decide." Ashley saw the genius in Maurie's design. Her dad knew Dustin hated heights. Nothing would be more satisfying than to see him suffer. She debated until the trickle of the last drop rippled. X opened his palm to present the ring. Never had she felt so bittersweet. Holding the band again finally, and then seeing Dustin's snarky face exit the lift. The elevator went up 2 stories, paused, then dropped in free fall down 3 stories into the basement. This cycle repeated for an hour and would have tortured Dustin to his limits. Ashley slid the ring over her finger, which shimmered brightly when wiping her tears. "It's not fair. You should have to go through what I did." Dustin put his arm around her, and she swatted it away. "Ashy, I'm sorry. I'm glad you got the ring. You were Mom's favorite. Even though I was first, I could never be enough. It's because you were stubborn like her. You tried too hard to protect us, and you pushed yourself away," Ashley chided. "It wasn't always like that. Everything changed when Mom lost her memory. Being around Dad was too hard, a constant reminder that the family was gone. Dad fought to keep us together and tried to make us smile. Remember that time I tripped at her funeral in front of everyone? So Dad tripped on purpose to draw attention? Even you joined in." Maurie's dilemma. X declared, "You now have a chance at Maurie's life's worth. You must get into the elevator once more." The siblings debated as a formality, but the greedy allure was too strong, so they obeyed. "Listen carefully, or you may not survive. Maurie wants time he never had while alive. You will spend 1 hour together in the elevator. At 11:59, the door will open, and you will have 6 final drops of water to determine your fate before the door closes at midnight. If you get off together, you're free to leave the mansion, but Maurie's fortune is donated to the Alzheimer's Foundation. If one gets off, they will leave empty-handed, while the relative that stays will go up to the 2nd floor and acquire the entire fortune. This cannot be shared. If you both stay on, the elevator will go to the basement and you will be locked in together forever in a penniless coffin. They sat without speaking for almost an hour until Dustin broke the silence. After all this, we'll never agree on who should stay in the elevator for the inheritance. So the options are no money or death. Some choice, Dad. When that door opens, we'll be fine if we walk out together. We didn't have any money before anyway. Let's not risk it. I guess I'll never travel the world after all. I was gonna buy a house, finally start a family with the money, Ashley murmured. Dusty, swear on Mom, we'll leave together. They stood and faced the door, waiting for it to open. Ashley extended her hand and Dustin held it. Once the door opened, the first droplet fell like a lonely tear, but neither moved. X pantomimed, twirling a ballroom dance with an invisible partner, bent forward at the waist, then extended a hand for someone to step forward. On the next trip, we walk out together, Ashley said and stepped forward when she heard the plop. Dustin yanked hard to pull free and stay in the elevator for the riches, but Ashley squeezed to hold on with all her might. If she couldn't have it, she wouldn't let him. Teeth sunk into her hand as Ashley yelped. The blood dripped down Dustin's chin. She took out X's pen and stabbed him in the side. Dustin bent over, grabbing his torso. Seizing the moment, Ashley shoved him outside. Dustin sprinted back and pushed open the doors that were starting to close, grabbed Ashley by the shirt, and spun around to throw her through the door. The last drop reverberated like a thrashing ocean wave, and the hourglass was empty. Ashley slammed back first against the tomb-sealed door, trapped inside with her next of kin. The offspring clawed at the door, trying to pry it open, but their cries faded as the elevator descended, and eternal silence settled on the mansion. Somberly, X spoke, his words trailing off into the air as he vanished. Ashley to ash, Dustin to dust. R.I.P. Maurie.
Drake, I know you said that you're not good with character voices, but your character voices for that were pretty incredible. I felt like you absolutely nailed the butler. I was definitely a fan, like, because I looked away from the reading for a moment, and as I was listening, I'm like, it sounds like this could actually be the butler character. It's like this creepy X, like you imagine this like maybe like this otherworldly, pale, maybe skeleton-ish like figure. I was like, I absolutely loved that. Oh man. I was like, who doesn't love a story where they're basically forced to do trials? And it's basically the trials to compete against each other, but it should be heartwarming. It's because they were little shits. Like that's why they're being put through it. How did you guys? And by the way, if you're here in the stream, what did you think about the story? Drop it down in the chat. We would love to hear from you. Do you think that the children deserve the ending that they got? Yes, no, maybe so. Or was that the only ending that was possible? So what did you guys think about it?
Oops.
Oh yeah,
Penelope.
Me? What did I think of the story? I love a good comeuppance. I really do. I like it when the bad, and sometimes I found myself sympathizing with the siblings just a little bit. There's just enough of that emotional, like, I kind of get that. We've all been shits at some point in our life, but at the end it was like, yeah. Once you hear more about like how spoiled they had been and how much they'd put their parents through, it was like, kind of serves you right, kids. So I do enjoy a little Schadenfreude. So
It kind of felt like Ashley was it almost like in this story, Ashley was the remorseful of the two. Like she was the only one that was remorseful and felt like, okay, she felt bad about basically not being there for her father. Yeah.
So I agree with all that, except
Okay.
Maurie obviously planned for them to die.
Yeah.
He wanted to murder his own children.
You think it was like a zero sum? Like he always knew the decisions they would make.
Yeah. So if he was a father that was going to murder his own children, then he probably was a really terrible father. And so a lot of how they turned out was probably on his shoulders. So while I do agree, they got what they deserve because they both fought to the death to get the other one out of the elevator. I think that a lot of it was their upbringing. So that always makes me feel sad.
Yeah, that's really interesting because a lot of times people would assume, it's all the children's fault. But I think looking deeper into the nurture side of it, right? Like nature versus nurture. Is it the kids just little shits, or was it because the father was just a bad father? And I think framing it from that perspective, that's a really good point. Any parent who's willing to do that to their children clearly shows what type of person they are.
Yep. It shows
right, regardless of how their children turned out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a really good call.
I do know that it's both nurture and nature, but we as parents do have a lot of influence on our children.
Absolutely, 100%. I from other writers that I've spoken with, that has always been a very similar sentiment. I can't speak to that since I only have a cat and a cat who doesn't like people, so no comparison.
Okay. And it makes a really good point. Like, if it almost makes the ending inevitable, then if the father was going to kill the children, then it makes it inevitable that they would try to do that to each other. Like, if you're looking at it in that point of view. Yeah. And it's kind of shocking to, I wonder though, like, about somebody doing that, like, after they died. Like, wouldn't you want to enjoy that? If you were going to do it, I mean, if you're going to, like, put your children in a situation where you're finally going to get those little knuckleheads to duke it out till the end, wouldn't you want to watch? Like, like I expect Maurie's looking up from where he's gone going, yes, finally.
You would think, wouldn't you? Yeah, I think it shows that father clearly just had so much resentment in his heart, and he was just that selfish of an individual. It's actually kind of interesting because, Drake, what you were saying kind of made me think that the story speaks more volumes about the father who isn't even in the story.
Well, here's the beautiful thing about storytelling. It doesn't matter what you, the writer, think that you're writing, because everyone comes at the story from their own perspective. So in my family, I have something very similar to this. Not murdering children, but I've got...
Okay, good. No children murderers. Okay.
And so I have that experience with my upbringing and my relationship with certain people in my family. And I'm also a father. And so I have a completely different perspective from there. And so it doesn't matter what Neil intended to do, just like it matters not at all what any writer intends to do. All that matters is what the reader is affected by. It's one of the reasons why one of my Drakeisms is the writer does not get to decide whether their story is successful or not, because they don't know. They're too close to it. Only readers get to decide if your story is successful, period.
Yep.
I think the mark
That
of a
is the truth.
successful story is definitely if people have a lot to say about it. And I think in this case, yeah, it's one of those stories that kind of act as a Rorschach test to see like what you think about it. So
Awesome. Well, thank you all for that. Thank you all for dropping your comments down below. Drake, Penelope, thank you for joining me in this discussion. I was like, I feel like I'm going to be thinking about elevators, and I might have that nightmare of being in an elevator and bugs and snakes and things falling on me. I think that was the worst part of it for me. Just imagining cockroaches, snakes, spiders, and all the things. No, thank you. No, thank you. I choose the nice option any day. But
you would.
But thank you so much for that. And Drake, I really want to thank you for doing the stories. You read both of them really, really incredibly.
Yes.
Now, before we
one of my strengths.
Wow. And that just goes to show, even if it not being your strength, that you've done it very well. So I think that itself speaks volumes, and I definitely really appreciate your time. Also bearing with us through all of our Jezebel technical difficulties. You know, it only happens when it's live. We know how it works out. But before I let you get going, I wanted to real quick give you a chance to shout out some of the things that you're working on with your community. I originally had set up for Releasing Your Inner Dragon, because I know you we met through the Releasing Your Inner Dragon YouTube channel, which is awesome, by the way. But I know you have some other things going on in the community. I'll let you shout it out so that way you can speak to what you have, and I'll throw it down in the chat for everyone.
Yeah. And I threw the links for you in your private chat. But yeah, so Releasing Your Inner Dragon is my podcast. It's me and another writer. We talk about writing. That's literally what we do. And we just crossed the 1,000 subscribers mark. So
Woo!
We're finally in the big leagues. But
you're a real YouTuber now.
I guess. I don't know. I'm really not.
That's what people consider the real YouTuber status when they cross 1,000, regardless of the back end. Like it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I show up and I talk about writing for an hour. I don't really have anything to do with YouTube.
And I think that's what's great, right? Because I know I've seen a lot of your videos, a lot of your guys' stuff before. And I think it's your passion and your love behind writing is what brings up people to it.
Yeah. And that's literally my life. So there's actually a Kickstarter of mine going on right now. So for Harnworld, I'm doing an audiobook of the first story, and we're dropping the second story. So if you go to the Kickstarter link that he'll link down below, you can actually get both. You don't need to know anything about Harnworld. I am a story writer for them. So what I'm bringing to the table, anyone who enjoys fantasy I'm going to give you everything you need to know. You need to know nothing about the game to enjoy the stories. And actually, it's the oldest role-playing setting in the industry. They've been around for 42 years. They've never allowed anyone to write in their world until the owner read me last year. And now I'm the only one that's allowed to write in their world. So it's been some really cool stories, and I'm having a lot of fun playing in their realm. I've been a Harnworld player since I was about 12. It came out in the early 80s. So it's been around for a really long time. And then
wow, that looks really cool. I know I did a quick glance at it, but I think I'm really liking the cover design and the artwork from just what they've shown so far, which is really cool.
Yeah, their artist has that old school role-playing art style, which I think is really cool. He's got that, he still has it. It's the same artist, and he's still got that, 80s kind of feel for that D&D kind of art. So I love that. Richard is just a fantastic artist, and it's been fun working with the team too. That's always, you get in and you have their dev team and you have their editors and you have their artists, and it's like you're this punk writer coming in that's gonna, do your thing, and you're always concerned about like how are you gonna mesh when you get in there. But it's been I've literally said I dedicated the first one to the team. It's the best company I've ever worked with.
Aw.
And so
that's really cool. That's really, really cool to hear.
Really awesome. I've had a lot of fun with them. And then the only other two things, Starving Writer Studio is where you can find my stuff. So if you want books on creative writing, we're giving away right now the first 70,000 words of my next novel that's coming out. The novel itself is a little over 250,000. It won't be out until first part of next year, but you can literally read the first 15 chapters, all of Act 1 for free. If you go to starvingwriterstudio.com, and you'll see the Genesis of Oblivion, you can click on read the free advanced preview. So there's that. And then the only other thing is my writer's room. If you really want to take your writing to the next level, every single week we're working with writers. We do critique pods. This weekend I'm doing a writer's workshop. We're going to spend 3 hours on verbs. I've got lessons and activities and exercises for them to just work on verbs, and we're doing that for 3 hours. I'm also giving a class this weekend in there called How to Write a Series, where I talk about all the different things to think about if you're going to write multi-novel books. And I do, classes in there, the workshops. I do plotting pods, so we can talk about bigger stuff, critique pods. Matter of fact, the last story that I read, I'd seen a much earlier version of that because he's a part of the writer's room. And so I had already kind of been involved in the critiquing of that. But I'm in there every day. So if you want to have access to me on a weekly basis, and also it's a community of just really dedicated writers that are all dedicated to not only becoming better writers themselves, but making everyone else better writers. So there's definitely a culture that I've created and that I maintain within the writer's room. And you can join for free, and you do get access to quite a bit of it for free, but then the vast majority of it is behind a paywall. But for the first 250 minutes, so we just launched not too long ago, it's normally going to be $100 a month. Right now, if you join, you'll be one of the founding members, and you'll get 50% off for life. So it's $49 a month for every.
Wow, that's awesome.
That stuff. So there is a ton of stuff that you get. I mean, I've got people that pay more than that just for my class, or just for my workshop, or just.
I'm definitely not surprised. I would say, like, I would highly recommend checking out Drake's stuff. Definitely checking out the writer's room. Clearly, we were just doing a reading today, but I know I had Drake and Maurie as well over a couple months ago on the podcast. And Drake, you guys are so knowledgeable. We literally spent 10 minutes editing. That we did a live story editing, and I think we had like 3 pages queued up. It took us like 10 minutes to get through like 3 sentences. Yeah, and because like they just kept going back and forth. Your guys' like discourse is like so beautiful. And I can tell every single time that you look into a piece of writing, like you have a very similar, and you have like your own unique perspective, kind of like how I do. And it's like, you just like, you know what to see, you know how to fix it, and you know how to help improve the writing. So I definitely highly recommend the community go check out your stuff. Go check out Drake over at Starving Writer Studio. All the links, the Kickstarter, the Writer's Room, and the Writer's Studio will be linked down in the YouTube description. And Drake, thank you for joining us today. Yeah, it's been incredible.
Drakeisms, because somebody just posted a Drakeism, head book versus paper book.
Head book versus piss. I love that. Drake, is it weird to you when people start posting like things that you've said?
No, it's the funniest thing about what I do is there's so many people that I've trained probably 15 to 20,000 writers by this point, and it's amazing how many heads that I live in rent free. So many people are like, oh yeah, when I'm editing, all I can do is hear your voice. I'm like, yeah, I'm just living rent free in just thousands of people's heads.
I start getting that same thing with my with a lot of my clients and projects, and I'm at such an earlier part of my journey, so I totally understand that.
It's a good feeling to know that you're really trying to help writers
really
take that next level.
Absolutely. So awesome, Drake. Thank you again for today. I'll let you get going, and well, see, I'm sure I'll have you back again soon.
Absolutely. It's been fun. Bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of the
take care, friend. All right. And that was exciting. Oh, my goodness. 2 stories down of round A. Only some technical difficulties, but and let's see. Let me pull up the schedule once more. So what we're going to be doing is we'll be hopping into the 3rd story of round A. Let's see. Make sure I got our Freaky Friday schedule pulled up. It's like I had everything before it crashed. Here we go. And boom. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we're about to hop into If They Find the Bodies, which is going to be our next story, our next one of round A, and then we'll be voting for which one of the first three was your favorite. So let's do this. And without further ado, I was like, I'll come back to that. Penelope, I'm going to let you hop off, and I'll bring on our next guest author. Okay, are you going to teleport this time?
Well, I was going to make up your mind. Do you want me to hop off, or do you want me to, know what? I'm just gonna
like, I'm in such like a stream of conscious. I'm like, I don't even know what I say half the time. To invite our friend Guthron, a fellow author, onto the stage. Welcome, my friend.
Oh, me?
Yes. Like, wait, am I here? You've been summoned from the Aether by our very own Jezebel onto the screen.
Well, that would explain why everything's blurry if I'm in the Aether.
So what's really crazy is, of all the authors and all the guests we've had today, I haven't actually officially gotten to really meet you on screen yet. So I just want to say it's my pleasure to have you here.
You can blame Paul for that.
For those of you who don't know, Paul was on one of our podcast episodes, I want to say maybe about a month ago. And
Yeah,
we
roughly.
had an absolute great conversation with horror and thrills and scares. Like, it was really fun. But
yeah, I've known Paul since 2015. We did DragonCon in 2016.
So for our writing community who don't know you, do you want to do a quick introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Brian.
Like, I like long walks along the beach.
I do, depending on the location. Some beaches aren't worth walking on. So
that's a good point. Very good point.
But yes, I'm Brian. I've been writing for, how old am I? 31 years, maybe 32 years, roughly. It took 20 years to write the first book. It took less than 1 to write the sequel. But then it took 8 to publish the sequel. So I like to take my time.
Well, I mean, that's a good thing, because I think everybody writes at their own pace. I feel like I've had some stories that I've been working on for like 20 plus years, and then other stories that I've just started, and clearly that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. So I have ideas for stories that I've had going on for 15 years, and then others that have just been percolating for like a month. So it's kind of all over the place.
I think that shows that those tend to be the best stories. So first off, thank you for joining us today. Let me cue up the intro. I was like, if I don't crash the stream again, we'll see what happens.
Hey, is it a stream if there are no technical difficulties?
I keep saying 300 live streams. I have 300 consecutive tomorrow, and I haven't dealt with technical difficulties in about 150 streams.
So they all started today? Sorry, that's my fault.
They literally all started today. It's been at least like probably a good, like, I think I had like 1 or 2 days of audio problems about 2 months ago, but I would say back in March, April, I had some like huge problems trying to figure out the tech. So I had to go through a phase of figuring out what was actually going to work.
I had my handle in my previous life was glitch, because every time I worked on the system we worked on, I broke it.
So maybe it's not Jezebel.
The tech people always held their breath when I logged in for the day, because it would have my like basic login, and they would wait to see which one I would change my name to, because if I changed it to glitch, that meant I was working, and they were going to have to work their butts off to keep everything working.
Oh man. Well, let's see if we're actually able to pull Jezebel from the Aether this time. So let's see. Let me make sure I got this. And without further ado, let's give this a shot.
If They Find the Bodies by Kurtis Bowling. Some lessons should never be learned. Kurtis Bowling's eerie tale of a college student's brush with forbidden knowledge will leave you questioning what lurks before life begins.
All right, perfect. Okay, we got through one portion of it. I feel pretty good about that. Awesome. And let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'll pull the story up, If They Find the Bodies, which is super cool. And I know, are you eager, ready to read through this one?
That's why I'm here, right?
Right. Let's hope. Hopefully,
it's
no
definitely
glitches.
not to challenge Jezebel. That's for sure.
I was like, I feel like you were brought to our community for a reason, just to challenge Jezebel.
No. I will not challenge Jezebel. I will come alongside her and support.
Oh no, Jezebel's gonna start getting her active community. Well,
Yes.
I absolutely love that. I'm sure she'll show back up in a bit. I have it all queued up for you. Feel free to
Okay.
start whenever you're ready.
If They Find the Bodies by Kurtis Bowling. All of the students continued to sit in uncomfortable silence. Everett twiddled his worn-down pencil. After a long Friday of exams, the aspiring writer thought an evening lecture with an author sounded interesting. It had been almost 6 minutes since the guest speaker was introduced, the clock on the wall silently ticking away. The man hadn't said a word. He stood behind the desk, staring at his laptop screen. What is a story? Dr. Thaniel Faust's deep voice rumbled, startling Everett and spurring everyone's attention. Dr. Faust removed his jacket, laid it across the back of the chair, and stepped forward. A story, fiction, nonfiction, any story. What is it at its core? He glanced around the tiered lecture hall at them. Many had laptops of their own, typing up notes, while a few others were jotting into notebooks, like Everett, who couldn't afford a laptop until next semester. It's a record, the doctor said. Something about the way he stood, tall and rigid, and how he never looked at anyone for more than a second, indicated Faust would answer his own questions. A record of events. They can be literal, metaphorical, fictional, or absolutely true. You can speak it, you can write it down. I'm a doctor of philosophy. I've spent a long time trying to understand what it means to be, to exist, life in all its facets, and our relationship with it. So, in time, I have come across many stories. Stories are special. They make experience tangible. Even a drawing you can hold in your hand. Know that a living, breathing person put something they thought or felt onto the page. If you hear a story, it lives in your head. It lives. Dr. Faust paced as he spoke. Life, living, what is it? Cultures and religions tried to answer differently, but it comes down to the soul. He stopped, staring at the closed doors across from him for a time. What is a soul? He eventually continued. Some unknowable thing that we all possess? It's what makes us who we are, our identity. Our lived experience shapes the soul. Many believe it holds on to those experiences beyond death. Heaven, right? The Greeks had their Elysian fields. And then there's hell, Hades. After some judgment, the soul moves on to the afterlife. This fascinated me. Searching for meaning in life, the stories often consider what, if anything, comes after. My search took me in the other direction, to what came before. If we accept the soul and the afterlife, then what of the opposed pre-life? Even those who disavow such concepts agree that the cycle is, effectively, you are nothing, you are something, and then you return to nothing. Everett and many others had stopped taking notes by this point, engrossed. Nothing is scary, Dr. Faust said. Nothing is dangerous. It's where everything comes from. See, souls exist perpetually, eternally. And while there's not yet a way to know whether they retain someone's influence after passing, the souls that come before are unshaped, unbridled, raw souls searching for purpose. Does life have a purpose? That's a chief question in philosophy. Raw souls don't ask such questions. They only seek to find such a purpose, to make one. That was the folly, searching for what comes before. The search was harmless, but speaking of it, putting it towards making it real, that can open a channel. Once the stream of pre-consciousness flows, it is a flood. The doctor looked up towards the ceiling, and Everett swore tears were welling up in his eyes. My burden, though, Faust said, swallowing. We've crossed over now. They've had ample time to make a copy. Some of the students shot looks at each other, not understanding what he meant. Everett looked at the clock, assuming the doctor thought his lecture had gone over time. The clock wasn't there. Where'd the door go? A girl asked, pointing to the wall across from the doctor. Everett followed the gesture to the empty stretch of wall that had before held a door. What the hell? Someone else piped up. Everyone swiveled around to see a young man also pointing towards the back door at the top of the stairs, the door with the bright exit written overhead that Everett and all the other students had entered from. The door was no longer there. Stories are warnings, Faust said, taking off his glasses. His voice was measured, strained. They make things real, and those things don't know what being real is. But the warning isn't for you. He turned his laptop screen around, revealing a word processor transcribing his live speech into text. It's for those that come later, if they find the bodies. The art professor stood up. Okay, maybe we should fuck this, another girl with long blonde hair said, shooting up from her chair. She and 3 other girls marched up the stairs toward where the door should have been. Others around Everett started grabbing their things to follow. Everett watched them, wanting to see what had happened to the door. The 3 girls behind the blonde flinched. The blonde girl was warped in an instant. She didn't have time to gasp before some external force completely crushed her. By the time she would have made her next footstep, her body crumpled to the floor in a pile toppled with blonde strands. The next 3 cries were cut short as each was obliterated in seconds. It was as if silent, invisible grenades had detonated from the inside out. The only sound was their bodies hitting the tile. Then the screams. Dissonant shrieks from women and groaning wails from men rang out. The chairs and tables crashed about as everyone scrambled to get away from the carnage. Everett was frozen. Time slowed down as each second felt like distinct individual moments. During each moment, someone was killed. Swaths of fresh crimson began to paint the walls and floor. Something was tearing into or out of someone with every blink. A big man, probably a football player, dove forward over the desks, trying to charge the doctor. He almost got to him before he was cut down. It sent a spray of red across the doctor, but Faust didn't react. He stared at his screen. What could Everett do? Adrenaline throttled him, and buzzing filled his ears. His chest was about to explode. There was no fight or flight to be had. Running, flailing, or hiding, it made no difference. Death surrounded him. Nothing could be done with his heightened sense of clarity. The doctor was calm, unmoved, and staring at his screen. Everett's eyes darted to his notebook. His last words were, "What is a soul?" He stared at the words, and the doctor's lecture spiraled through his mind. A sudden, absurd, irrational thought was all he had to cling to. The freshman snatched his pencil and wrote frantically, "What is a soul? What is a soul? What is a soul?" Sound from the students died away. Eventually, it fell to nothing but sobs and trembling prayers to God. Then it was just the sound of lead against cheap paper. When Everett glanced up, Dr. Faust put his glasses back on and watched him. His face was downturned, mourning. The room reeked of iron. The doctor looked up once more to the ceiling. Everett followed his stare. 2 massive, impossibly large eyes watched them from above. Faust and Everett locked gazes again, and the doctor looked on Everett with pity as if to say he felt worse for him than any of the other desecrated students. "Never forget what happened here," he said to Everett. "But don't you dare write it down, son." The doctor went over to the desk chair, put on his clean suit jacket over the mess of bloody clothes, and walked out of the door across from him. As soon as the door closed after the doctor, the door from behind was thrown open. A young man walked in and scanned the room. "Did I miss it?" Everett stared at him, at the door, then looked around. The room was empty, completely barren of anything except Everett and the laptop on the desk. The cursor was still blinking. The last page was nothing but transcribed screams. Everyone took his notebook and left the hall. He threw it in the trash as he left the building. Back in his dorm, he didn't change clothes. No blood on them anymore. He crawled into bed, turned to face the wall, and did his best to ignore the 2 eyes watching him. He hoped they would be gone by morning.
Wow. Wow. Once again, what another incredibly intense story. Thank you so much for that reading. I know, like, every single time I read through that one, every single time I hear it, I'm getting chills from just that vibe of what we expected. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a discussion in what we thought about that story if they find the bodies. We would love to hear from you. So drop a comment, let us know what was something that stood out the most to you, what was something that you loved, or what was something that like really, really resonated. We would love to hear from you. Drop a comment. Man, oof. How do you feel about that one, my friend? I was like, I
When
know
I
for me.
when I
Oh,
heard it
no, go for it.
earlier, my child read it to me, which is how I picked up those a couple of changes that the
Mhm.
audience probably saw I made. It was at first it felt like, where is this going,
Mhm.
right? Because the first half is a lecture, but then
Yeah, we're like, so is
once
this just like a philosophy lecture? Like,
yeah, when the moment hit, right? When the
Mhm.
clock vanished, they're like, oh, something's not right. And then
Mhm.
it just kind of built from there.
Mhm.
I had more fun actually reading it myself, but it did help knowing what was coming, so I could try to make it a little bit more like I really in my head beforehand. I thought I need to make sure that I make that "fuck you" interrupt what I'm saying, because
You did a
it felt
really
like
great job on the reading, by the way.
it
I
felt
was
like
like,
that's what
I
the author
wasn't sure how
wanted.
anyone could pull it off, because this character is like such like evil, demonic, but you don't really know who he is. Obviously, we had the Faust references,
Yeah,
but it's
Faust
just such.
was a big clue.
Mhm. Oh,
I'm
you,
I'm
you, you
I'm
think Faust was a
still
clue?
I'm still wondering in my mind. I'm still wondering if Faust was also the eyes.
I feel like Faust probably. Who? Okay, so like the title, if they find the bodies, right? So clearly, we knew that the professor, Dr. Faust, we knew that going into it, like what was already going to that was always going to happen. And then the way that he speaks to Everett at the end leads one to believe that it was all set up, even like farther before this situation happened. Um,
Here's another thought I had. Did Everett ever actually wake up?
ooh, that's a good one.
Like,
That's a
is
really
this
good
not
one. I
all
didn't
just
think about
happening in
that.
his head, and it ends with him in bed, right? I've had dreams where the dream ended with me in bed, but it
Mhm.
seemed so real until I woke up. It's like, wait, what just happened?
You know, I actually took that in the opposite direction of like, what if he actually died? And that
Mhm.
was like it, like the ending of it was just his like
No, Penelope. As far as
afterlife.
we know, Everett is still asleep. Everett may, as Jared just said. Um, sorry, I don't know if I'm not supposed to use your real name.
Oh no, you're good. Everybody goes back and forth. I kind of just stick with whatever nicknames people seem to give me these days.
The Mad Hatter.
Exactly. Today I'm the Mad
Yeah.
Hatter, the Mad
So
Cougher.
yeah, as the Mad Hatter just pointed out, Penelope, it's possible that this is he's already dead.
Mm-hmm.
He's already, as the great quote from Gladiator said, if you find yourself roaming through fields of wheat, do not worry because you're in Elysium and you're already dead.
Man, so all of this, and I think that's what makes such an interesting story, right? So obviously it's really dark. Obviously there's a lot of death and carnage, right? The fact that the story takes place in a
Hmm.
classroom, right? And I think that's very, very intentional. I think, and I think what I love about this story is that sometimes writers can write stories and things happen by accident. A lot of the elements of the story are very, very intentional,
Oh,
from
I can
the
definitely tell you that
philosophy,
happens.
from the ideology, from the classroom, from the professor, from the Everett, from the bed. You can just tell that the design of it was really geared towards getting the reader to think, maybe having a conversation, and really like thinking about what are the different possibilities.
I can tell you from my own writing experience that you imagine something,
Mm-hmm.
you see it in your head, and then you go to write it down and you realize you have to write it differently. So it's already different in two different versions.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in the process of taking it from what you saw to what you're going to write down so someone else can see it, you
Mm-hmm.
realize it has to change, or you realize there's a better twist.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I'm asking myself, like, I don't honestly don't know how I could have done it better. I was like, but granted, yeah, that's a hard one. That's a
This
difficult one to take on. I think
this
any
has
writer would be fearful of
this
taking on
story
that
has
type of
great
chapter.
bones, right? It
Mhm.
has great bones. You can maybe branch off down one bone versus another, but like the main skeletal structure of this story is sound.
Mhm. Completely agreed with that.
But I can tell you both times, but when I heard it earlier today when my kid was reading it versus now when I was reading it, both times I was at that point of, man, this lecture's going on for quite a while. But I think that's exactly what you're supposed to think. You're supposed to be a student wondering, where is this going?
I completely felt like I was back in college again. Like, okay, dude, right. It's going over our heads. We have no idea what you're talking about. What is the point of what you're saying? And then something so extraordinarily horrific happens in the story. And it's just like, was I supposed to be paying attention to the other part to kind of understand? Like, could I, almost like, was I going to be able to save myself if I understood that thing that Faust was saying? And it makes you wonder why Everett was saved, or why because he was still the whole time. He didn't move. He just watched. He just observed. And he goes home and he's got the eyes observing him. So it's a lot of like the more metaphysical parts of it are very intriguing to me. And I haven't quite sorted. It's like a dream. It's very Lynchian in that, like, or Twilight Zone in that, like, it doesn't all quite make sense, which makes it a perfect dreamlike atmosphere. I really,
Yeah.
So they often say that the worst victim of a tragedy is the survivor. Right?
Yes.
I think that moment when Faust looked at Everett with that regret of, you of all people have suffered more, is because you witnessed it. You've gained the awareness, right? Whatever happens next, you gain awareness. And if you go with kind of what Jared was mentioning earlier, is Everett actually already dead? And this is just his way, his body's way of telling it, his soul's way of coming to the realization. Then that moment is that his own soul telling him, dude, you're dead.
Yeah.
And now, and I feel sorry for you that you were, because now you know. Up until this moment, you could pretend. Now you can't.
Yeah. And that's that realization is a heartbreaking moment, I think, too.
Having gone through complex trauma from military service, I can tell you that moment of realization when you realize what exactly it is that's happening or what it is you've done, that is not a fun moment. That is a horrible moment to have that realization hit you of just how bad, especially if it's something you actually took part in. So like in this case, the soul saying to Everett, dude, you are dead. This is over. And the only way we can make you aware of it is to just to show you death and death and death and death and death.
Oh my gosh, like this is the responsibility that the open Pandora's box has, is to show you that we're going to, until you get it. And then going home and with the eyes still watching, like observing, did you get it? Like, it's inescapable. That's a really good insight. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Lots of trauma experience. So sorry, it just comes naturally.
They're like, perfect when to be able to talk about a story.
Yeah, it's extraordinary that you were able to bring that to the discussion. Thank you.
So yeah, I think this
actually
is definitely
what your commenter in the channel just said. That's exactly right. As soon as you said Pandora, my first thought was of the Xena Warrior Princess series of stories where they dealt with Pandora's box. And it was that hope. That hope. Can you face? Can you hold on to hope in the face of horror? Is it possible?
And Pandora's box is always one of my favorites because of that exact ideology there. Because it's the mystery of what's inside a box and then how it comes out and how they respond to it.
Yeah, the Xena Warrior Princess isn't exactly known for being the greatest of stories, but I felt that they handled Pandora's box extremely well. It was a new take on it.
Now I have to go watch that. I think I'd like that. Awesome. It sounds way more philosophical than it is, probably.
So with that being said, I feel like this is one of those stories that we could probably like discuss like the logistic and the philosophical principles for a very long time, right? And that's another hallmark of a story that's trying to start a conversation that's doing it well. So I think now is probably the perfect time for us to finally get into the voting. So I would love to say that you've been able to come and join us at the end of this round, my friend. We have actually now just gone through the first 3 stories of round A. I don't know if you heard or you saw the previous stories before you.
The second one. I saw the second one.
You saw the second one. Awesome. So you saw Nils Maurie's Dilemma. So we're going to start round A voting right now. Now, before we drop the link, once again, let me throw up the stories one more time. So we're going to be voting for the number 1 favorite between the first 3 stories of round A. So let me pull these up. We had ML's The Assignment by ML Claxon with Our Disgraced Investigator and the Mysterious Creature. And then we also had, let me throw this up here. We had Maurie's Dilemma with Nil, the father's test of love or hate between his 2 children. And of course, if they find the bodies, our young college student dealing with the intricacies of the Dr. Faust's horror in this classroom. So
Faustian dilemma.
That's exactly what it is. It's the Faustian dilemma. So I think we have some really great, really absolutely great stories here. And we're going to throw up the vote for you guys. So here's how it's going to work out. You're going to have, let's say, 10 minutes? What do you think? 5 to 10 minutes to vote? Like you have 1 minute to vote.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's going to be hard. We should give them 10 minutes. Let's give them 10 minutes.
All right. So we're going to give
1
you 10
minute's
minutes.
not enough time.
No.
let me throw up a timer here so that way everyone knows what our time frame is at. Perfect. What we're going to do is we're going to throw the voting poll down in the chat. So you're going to want to go to the link to poll. Let's see. Awesome. And I got this here. Awesome. So I'm going to start this and then we'll check back in and we'll see where we're at. So let's see what we got. Give us just a second. We're just setting up. We're just finishing the poll for round A. And then after round A, once we get through this part, we'll hop into our next series of stories. And we'll hop into round B. So we'll give us about a 10-minute break to go vote. All right. So we got that. And let's see. All right. And give us just a second while we're finishing just setting up and finalizing. So that way we can throw it in the chat for you. Perfect. So I have it right here for round A, dropping it in the chat. And good luck with the vote. And I'm going to go throw it up over on Facebook as well for round A. All right, perfect. So go and vote. We have the timer coming up. Vote which one of the first round of stories was your favorite. We have 9 minutes and counting. So go and vote on your favorite for the winner of round A. And then what we'll do is we'll hop into round B and we'll start with the next round of stories. So while we're waiting, my friend, I wanted to do a quick shout out. First off, thank you for sharing with us your storytelling talent. Like you did a great job on that reading. I feel like you really brought justice to, Faust.
I had a bit of an advantage. I used to teach, and I'm actually getting a doctorate in philosophy right now. It's history, because history falls under philosophy. So I kind of had, when it came time to channel Faust, it's like, I know how to do this. I know how to stand up there like a history professor and bore a class to the point where they don't see what's coming.
I'm a history professor.
Hey, you know what I speak of.
Yeah,
Some professors
exactly
do not know how to lecture, just like most historians don't know how to write.
I had one who was like, I'm a dinosaur. Don't tell me to change my ways. I'm not going to do a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to stand up here and talk. And it was like, and we're all going to have a nap. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
The best
All right.
professor I ever encountered teaching history was one who recognized that there was some things where there was the only way he could present it was to stand up there and talk about it. And he just straight up said, if you fall asleep, you fall asleep. There's nothing I can do about it. This content there's only so much I can do to make it exciting.
Yeah.
But I loved philosophy. I remember when I took courses back in both high school and college. I remember I loved it so much because I loved the ideology, and then you learn about the different philosophers. But I wouldn't say that I know that much. Clearly, with 2 philosophy professors here, so like I got nothing here. I'm like, yeah, what's the meaning of life? All right, I'll take a creative approach to it.
The meaning of life is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I like that answer. Excellent. So while we're waiting for the votes to come in, I wanted to give you a second to do a shout out for, it sounds like, is it your upcoming book? All right, 1 second. Is it for your upcoming book?
Yeah, I have a sequel coming out. It was supposed to come out on Tuesday, but they needed just a bit more time with the print. And so I get to release my book on election day.
Ooh.
No one's going to be distracted. And that is the cover.
Wow. That is such a cool cover, by the way. Like, I know, if I can just like pull up that. Let me just.
And if you look at my screen, there's the let me pull it back so it doesn't blur. There's the original.
Pull it out of the Aether.
Yeah, so you can see.
Oh, okay. Wait. Let's blow you up for a moment so that way we can let you see.
Take a look at that bad boy.
Actually, let me.
So show us the book cover one more time on your end.
I'm going to turn off the blur.
Okay.
So you get to see my background. Haha! Look at that.
All right, I'll drop us for just 1 second so you can see it.
There you go. So that's the original. So you can see the motif, single word, circular motif. So that's the original Rise.
Mm-hmm.
And then the picture that you showed is the sequel Fall. You remember how we were talking earlier, how stories can take twists that you don't realize? Mm-hmm. I got halfway through writing what was going to be Rise and realized I had too much story and that the characters were demanding a 4th book in the series. And that's where Fall came from. And they were there. Wow. Then the last 2 will be Shatter and Unite, and they will follow the same motif all the way through. I wanted it to be something that you could see from across the room, and it would go, "Wow, that's a simple but like elegant cover. Like it gets your attention because it's not busy, but it's got just enough to pull your eye in."
I absolutely love it. And then I realized looking at the cover, I had the same question. Do you prefer as an author? Do you go by Guthron? Guthrie? How do you prefer people refer to you?
Guthrie is how you say the name, Guthrie. Guthron is my online identity. It was actually someone was trying to make a pick on me as an adult. Like, dude, come on, we're not in high school anymore. By creating that
welcome
name.
to the internet.
Yeah. Well, no, this was in a language class as adults. Like we were learning Arabic. And the guy just got mad at me because I never got mad. He's like, "Are you a freaking robot?" Oh, he didn't say freaking. And so from that point on, he called me Guthron. And when we got to our first station, we had to get on we had duty positions online on these positions, and we had to put our number. And so I just wrote GUTHR on 169 or 170 or whatever. And that just became the thing. So I just kind of took it all. So Guthron is what people refer to me online, mostly when I'm streaming for charity.
Okay. And then if people want to go buy the book, so it sounds like purchase the first one or whenever the second one comes out. And I know you said that you had issues. Did you say when the second one's going to be launching now?
On November 5th, election day.
Oh, that's right. It was the election day. Yeah. Okay. So November 5th.
It's particularly interesting to me they chose that day because here's the dedication. To those looking for their place in this world who often feel like they don't belong, we see you. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people voting on election day who kind of feel like they don't belong still. Doesn't matter which side you fall on.
After you voted your feelings, go buy this book. It will resonate.
Or while you're standing in line.
And so many people are going to be waiting in long lines to vote. You're like, download the book.
I use this trick to my advantage at conventions because they like to put artists in the same room as the talents, right? Mm-hmm. And I like to have my audiobook because these are on Audible. Rise is already on Audible. Fall will be released 2 weeks after the paperback is on Audible. So I will play the Audible book at my stand, at my table, and people will be standing in line to get autographs from artists, from talent and stuff, and they'll be standing there listening to my book, and they'll go and they'll get too far and they'll get their autograph and they'll come back and go, I need to know what happened next.
Well, I think that's absolutely a great strategy. And let's see, if people want to go find you, where can they locate you at?
That little handle of mine is also my website, guthron.com. And if you look at the book section, you'll find links to the books there.
Perfect. And let me drop that down in the chat. Let's see, I had that.
Thanks, Jesse. I don't think I've conquered much, but thank you. I'll take the title. Guthron the Conqueror.
And once again, while we're waiting on that, I'm going to throw the poll down in the chat one more time. Make sure you go vote. We're at our last
everybody go vote.
Mark.
Go vote. These people put a lot of hard work in.
Yeah, these people put a lot. We could tell from all three of the stories. It's been such a process that they've went through. So go vote on the contest, and then go purchase Guthron's book. I hope I'm saying Guthron. That's going to take me forever. Guthron. Ga. So that's
a little inside baseball trick for you. If you guys like to listen to your books, never just pay for an Audible book. Go to Amazon's website, not their browser, not their app, because for some reason you can't buy Kindle books in their app, which really confuses me. Go to their browser, go to their website, and look whatever book you want to get. Look at their Kindle version. When you scroll down to the buy now with one click, look underneath it. There's usually a checkbox that says add audible narration, and it's usually discounted. And I have never seen that discount be less than 70% off of the Audible book price.
Wow. Yeah, it's a really good strategy. I've actually done that a lot because I like to switch back and forth because I'm always doing things. I want the option of, hey, right now I want to listen to it. Oh, I'm in the middle of a chapter and now I feel like reading it. So I think that's absolutely.
And I've had people. I've our book is about subtle representation. Like the series includes a lot of subtle representation. And one of the things I like about having an Audible is that people who have a hard time reading can also listen. Sometimes they can read and listen at the same time. So half of my birth family is dyslexic, so that trick worked wonders for them to be able to read the book.
Awesome. So I think that's really incredible. I threw the link down in the chat. It's also going to be posted down in the YouTube description as well. Definitely go check out one of those books. And I just have to say thank you for joining us today, my friend. I really appreciate the chance to meet you. You were like the perfect reader for this story.
Thanks. Well, but you didn't even know that. Look at how fate worked out for you. Jezebel was working.
I've done some research. I've done some researching into it, and then hearing your additional context, I'm like, all right, cool. My gut said yes for a reason.
I hope Kurtis, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it Bowling, as in like Bowling Green.
I think it's Kurtis Bowling.
I hope Kurtis Bowling enjoyed the read.
Awesome. Well, definitely make sure. Yep, there we go. There's Kurtis right
I think you liked it.
That is Kurtis. Okay.
Goldfish.
Yeah.
Yep, he was our goldfish.
Yeah, he was very pleased.
So yeah, that changes. Like now, I saw the comments earlier, and I was focusing on the goldfish part, 007 goldfish.
Right.
Kurtis was there.
Ooh, and that is the end of the voting. Voting comes to an end. So with that, we're going to be closing out the polls. Thank you for voting. And I'm going to let you get going, my friends. That way we can hop into our next round of stories. But thank you again for joining us.
The next reader's already here.
I know we're all ready. So we're going to be hopping into round B. But thanks you again. And I'm sure I'll have to have you back.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
See you guys later.
All right. Perfect. So that brings us to the end of round A. Wow. 3 stories. 5 to 7 technical difficulties. I feel like we're on a roll here. Thank you, Jezebel. Maybe glitch. I was like, maybe we have glitch. I feel like we're creating like an evil like tag team over here now with Jezebel and her friends.
If they don't knock it off, they're gonna create a wormhole, and it's just gonna be a crazy Halloween for everybody.
You know, it's kind of that vibe where it's like we like end up creating the worst villains. I'm like, are we just creating like this evil like force to be reckoned with?
Probably. Oh well. Oops.
I'm like, I wonder how many people are going to be Team Jezebel after our Freaky Friday event.
We'll see.
Oh man. So I think that was absolutely awesome. We're going to be hopping into round B and the next round of stories. But before we do, if you are enjoying this live event, this is our first holiday writing event. No, actually, this is our second one. We did our first one back in July, which, Penelope, that was one of your first streams that you joined me on. Back at the Write-a-thon back in July.
Oh, the Write-a-thon.
Right?
Yes. That was
like
actually, that was my first. Yeah. And I had no idea what to expect. And I had so much fun because we did the space mermaid story. Yes.
Ooh, the space mermaid story. So yeah, that was actually really, really fun.
No, it's fun.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with the community, this is a daily writing motivation live stream. We have author interviews, writing events. We have blurb and pitch fests. We have a choose your own adventure event coming up. We have daily writing sprints, anything that you can think of. We're adding it to the menu. Tomorrow is marks the official 300 consecutive live stream. So 300 more to go. Only 66 more to go for me to hit my 1 year of writing live streams a day. So if you want to join the community, tap that follow button, tap that subscribe button, because you'll be alerted when we go live right now. All right. So I wanted to definitely give that quick shout out. And once again, if you wanted to get your hands on the Freaky Friday Flash Fiction Anthology, it's available. Right now, we're offering it as part of the package. If you join the YouTube membership, you just click the join button down below the video description. It will be available and launching on Amazon tomorrow. All right, my friends. So, Penelope, do you think are we ready? Ready for round B? I feel like the first 3 stories were so good, and the next 3 completely different vibe.
Completely different. It is going to be a night. It's still going to be creepy. It's still going to be horror. It's just a little bit of a switch away from that more dark psychology into something a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we might be going a little more supernatural. I think supernatural. And I'm thinking with what we have up, I believe we have some more supernatural stories set up. So let's do that. But without further ado, let's bring in our next reader, because I know none of you know who our next reader is. You've never seen them on here before. Let us welcome our very own ChatSol to the stage. Welcome, my friend. Sol, thanks for joining us. And nilbomb.com, my friend, joining the YouTube membership. Thank you, my friend. The YouTube membership going to be cool, Anthology, and a monthly critique group. But as I was saying, Sol, thanks for joining us and thanks for reading.
No, of course.
One of the readings today. I was like, everybody's so used to trying to compete against you in our writing sprints. I was like, I don't think. Oh, that's right. You guys both joined me for the blurb, the blurb fest. Yeah, the blurb and pitch fest a while back. So it was like, you guys have done some readings. Yeah. It's like, man, how time flies when you're having fun. I was like, that was what, 100 live streams ago?
Gosh, what it feels like.
Oh, man. And we are just getting started, my friends. So, Sol, thank you so much for joining us. Let's see. Let me pull up what we got here. So we're going to be hopping into round B. Flash fiction stories, round B. And I think, Penelope, you look like you were going to have us live long and prosper.
I said round B, and then since every time I put up my hand, it just does this. So
round B. I was like, wait.
Vulcan peace sign.
Vulcan peace sign. All right. So let me see. Let me pull up. Get ready. Let me see if I can resummon Jezebel from the Aether. I think hopefully we're making progress here.
Is she gonna behave? Is the big question.
I guess we're about to find out. Yeah. All right, my friends. And without further ado,
Mr. by Orian. Pain seeks a dark cure in Orian's atmospheric story, where a man ventures into a graveyard to make a grim bargain with a necromancer. Will the cost be more than he can bear?
All right. So we got the intro. I'm like, Jezebel is not giving me any more issues. Hopefully we've like appeased her enough with some sacrifices today, and we'll see how this goes. So let me pull up the story. Awesome. And once again, don't worry, you can read it from your own screen or you can read it on here. I'll have this pulled up for the community. And excellent. Let's see. Nope, maybe. There we go. It's like maybe we'll figure it out. So starting with Mr. This is the next story. And Soul, feel free to take it away whenever you're ready.
All right. So this is Mr. by Orian. I sneak through a graveyard in the dark of the night. I would be afraid if I weren't in so much pain. Every step caused pain to shoot up both legs and through my back. Looking around, I am certain that no one is following me. Eventually, I found my way to a hut in the center of the graveyard. I heard a man they call Mr. Necromancer lives out here. He is my only hope for relief right now. Knock, knock, knock. My knuckles rap on the dirty wooden door 3 times softly. Rustling is heard within, and then the door opens. A tall man with black hair steps out into the doorway. His eyes are sunken in, soulless beads of pitch black, and he wears thick black gloves with a blood-stained apron. The metallic scent of blood wafts out from the door, assaulting my nose. He glares at me and looks around. Hello, Mr. Necro. No, call me Mister. Were you followed? He grunts as those disheveled eyes stare at me. I shake my head. No, no one saw me. I got off the bus a few stops early and snuck through the back alleys here. I say quickly, shifting my weight back and forth, trying to ease the pain in my feet. My back is starting to cramp up. He steps back and signals me forward. Inside the hut, there are tables with partially dissected human bodies on them. The walls are lined with shelves containing jars of preserved body parts or bodily fluids. My stomach starts to churn at the sight of all the gore. If I had eaten anything in the last 2 days, then I probably would have thrown up. But even still, I dry heaved a couple times. Clunk, ka-chut. Mister closes the door and locks it behind me. My body is shaking with nerves. I feel my heart racing and my hands sweating. My feet catch on the floorboard, and I stumble for a moment, almost falling, but I catch myself. I whimper in pain as I try to regain my posture. You chair back, he says, pointing his gloved hand at the curtain near the back of the hut. I wobble as I stumble past the curtain and see a chair with straps on it. Fear pricks at my senses as I look around, but my rising pain pushes it back. Part of me is just glad to see a chair. Doing this while standing up can sometimes be a bit unpleasant. Money, Mister says, extending his hand to me. I reach into my wallet and pull out over half my monthly salary. I can't afford this, but I don't have any choice. Before I can lose my nerve, I shove the bills into his gloved hand. He counts them silently. This will be fine for now. Strap in. I can feel his eyes judging me as I hobble towards a chair in pain and strap myself in. He takes off his gloves and puts the money away in a lockbox. He washes his hands at a small sink in the back area. Why are you here? Mister asks without looking up from the sink. I start nervously. I work at a warehouse, working a flesh mech, and no, why me? Why not the pharmacy or anyone else? He asks coldly. I take a deep breath. Well, my other place, they were out. Everyone else is out. Ha, and that brings you to me. Figures. After washing his hands, he grabs a fresh pair of gloves from a hook on the wall and opens a cabinet. Inside the cabinet, I see it, the object of my desire, of my need. A glass bottle of cloudy brown liquid with visible sediment at the bottom. Grabbing the bottle and a massive syringe, Mister kicks a wheeled chair beside me. I feel my face flush with anticipation. He checks the straps, tightens the last few I can't reach, and sits beside me. Holding up the bottle, Mister grins, and his face stretching unnaturally like it shouldn't be in this position. His entire countenance changes, becoming almost gleeful. This ace serum is old and contaminated. I harvested it from about 20 corpses last month. You will get sick, and this will last 1 week before you crash. His darkened eyes staring at my soul with an unnatural grin, his cheery voice disturbing. Sure you want this? I nod. I don't have a choice. Sitting here, I feel the pain racing up my back. I don't know how much longer I can withstand it. He leans uncomfortably close. Needed consent, gotta keep it professional after all. I rest on the chair, close my eyes, and breathe. I can't relax, so I open them. Nearby, a jar with eyeballs float in a jar of fluid. They bob around in the jar, and I could almost swear that some of them were coming around to look at me. As a fresh wave of pain racks my body, I wonder if they will be the last thing I see. I hear him drawing the A serum from the bottle into the massive syringe. The needle is unnecessarily long and thick. It is more of a dagger than a medical instrument. Ready? Mr. asks cheerfully. Yeah, I start, but before I can finish, he stabs me with the needle. It goes deep into my arm, penetrating the muscles. My heart pounds in my ears. The sharp pain would make me jump if I wasn't tied down already. The pain in my feet and back is forgotten as every nerve ending in my body burns at once, and I can feel the sweat dripping off my face. I keep telling myself that it will fade soon. It hurts so much. The bit to bite down on, that's what I forgot, Mr. says offhandedly. His creepy grin fills my vision as sweat pours down my face. My body tries to reject the A serum. This foreign substance fights with my natural defenses. I can feel every blood vessel screaming at once. I want to peel my skin off and rip it out of me. My teeth grind as I tense up against the aftershocks of the injection. I convulse, my muscles spasming chaotically, struggling against the bindings. Slowly, the pain and burning fade. What replaces is a warmth that feels like it's wrapping my insides with a blanket. All the pain in my legs and the rest of my body fell away, along with the stress and worry. This is what I needed. I feel like everything is going to be all right. I smile at him. Feeling good? He asks. Yeah, real good, I respond. He gives me a thumbs up before unstrapping me from the chair. As I get up, I shift my weight around on different parts of my feet, waiting for the pain. But none comes. I want to dance for joy, and I bounce up on the balls of my feet excitedly. Don't get too excited. This won't last, Mr. chuckles. I nod. Right, but at least I can get back to work. I can't miss any more days. When you need more of the good stuff, you know where to find me. If you have the money, Mr. says, waving me out the door. Good luck with the infection. Hopefully you don't need an amputation. His warning falls on deaf ears as my mind fills with visions of returning to work without the pain. Thoughts of my next paycheck and being able to pay my bills float through my head. I grin and nod to Mister as I walk back out to the night, scratching my arm where I got injected. A new, angry red wound has joined the collection of scars on my arm, pus already seeping out of it.
Thank you so much for that, my friend. That was a really, really good reading. It's nice for a change to be able to hear others in the community who I'm so used to talking with doing the readings outside of myself. I'm so used to like my own voice all the time. It's a nice change, but it was really awesome.
It was nice to read something aloud that wasn't one of my own works from my other writing group.
Right? Like a completely different story. So we're going to be hopping into the discussion for Mr. If you're here in the live stream community, what did you like about it? What stood out? Was this a painful experience or did we learn something? Drop a comment. We would love to hear from you. So as I'm thinking about this story, so I'm like, what? This story does such an interesting job and an interesting starting point on addiction. And I think this story is really about an addict who's really kind of going for a fix, but he's gotten to a point where, I mean, and it sounds like I wouldn't say that he's ignored it, but it's kind of like if the pain's not there, it's not a problem right now. But clearly what I really liked at the end was that right as he's like walking out the door, he's happy again. It shows on his arm, he has a collection of scars. So like that makes me think he's probably done this. Like he probably does this like every month or maybe every week. I mean, this kind of feels like this is like, I don't know, maybe heroin or something like that to that extent. But
that's what it made me think of.
Yeah, it gives off that vibe. It really, really does. What do you think of the story?
it was really interesting. I could easily picture all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to lie, I actually had a little bit of difficulty reading some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a deep fear of needles. So actually reading that aloud was absolutely terrifying.
Oh man, that was like me and the snakes and the spiders earlier. I don't know if you've been in the stream, but like with Nil's story, the snakes and the spiders. Oh no, thank you. But
You know, it was just really neat. I like the writhing in pain and then suddenly it's gone. I mean, I've read stuff like that before,
mm-hmm.
but usually it's not quite that quick. If it's not magic, like with magic stuff, you cast a magic spell or you take a potion and suddenly the pain's just like numb. It's like morphine. This was something different. This was something between like morphine and Tylenol. There was a clear amount of pain, but then he was just gone.
Yeah. God.
I was almost creepy with that.
Yeah. And
yeah, that was horrific.
Drug serum out of corpses and slinging it on the side is horrific. Man. I was like, so, all right. So clearly I think, what was that? The nickname Necromancer, right?
Mr. Necromancer.
Mr. Necromancer. I'm like, he's a drug dealer, right? Or is he just like, or is he like an evil necromancer who just like messes with people?
Personally, I found him to be more like a drug dealer who is so used to seeing people return to him that he's not going to deter them, but he's not really like super encouraging either. It's just more like, oh yeah, if you want this, just go ahead and come back.
Yeah.
Like he's just so used to it.
Oh my God. Yeah. It makes me wonder though if people are just going to him for the A serum, or if people are like going for like other like or is he even a necromancer? That's what people call him. Is he just like pretend to be a necromancer, but he's really just like the intense drug dealer?
It may just be a moniker for him being a drug dealer.
Yeah. I'm like, it could go back either way, because it's kind of like substantial of like, okay, nickname, but then he's kind of this creepy vibe the whole time. Yeah. Wow.
The May brings up.
Also, real quick, I just now thought he might also be called Mr. Necromancer because he gets that stuff from corpses.
Oh my God. I didn't think about that. That's actually a really good point. Mr. Yeah. That's actually, I think that's probably the truth. Yeah, like LeMay was like, the main character was sympathetic. I never experienced chronic pain before. Yeah. And I mean, like anybody who's ever experienced chronic pain at all, like,
oh yeah,
it is not a fun experience. How about you guys ever dealt with chronic pain?
I deal with it and I
dealt with it at points before. It makes you feel so hopeless, right? And especially then when you're dealing with it, it's like, what's going to make me feel better? What's going to dampen the pain? It feels like you get to this like stage where like it just sucks.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. When I'm in pain, I can't move. I'm literally down for like 2 days, at least a day and a half, and even moving my leg will be enough to just make me feel sick. So yeah, I can definitely understand the whole dealing with the chronic pain, and I know a lot of people that deal with basically almost the same thing with the legs and back hurting, and it's just, I understand what he's going through, and it's like, oh dude, the fact that I understand this and I know why you're going to him and you keep doing it just makes this worse.
Yeah, and I think that's what really resonates, and really what made me feel bad for the protagonist. Like, all right, he's an addict, and this is always the challenge, right? Because then it's like there's like that victim complex. But anybody who's ever been in pain, like that's horrible, but he keeps doing it to himself. So it's almost like he's trapped himself in this cyclical cycle. I mean, I guess it's a result of work, because he does that like mechanical stuff. So it's a result of like, he needs the job to survive, but that's causing him to be sick. He needs a serum to get better, and he's just like trapped.
That sounds like hell, like a literal hell. Like,
yeah,
and it's going to continue on. And like, then there's this brief moment of happiness where he's like, hey, at the end, and you're like, you're yay, but
And it sounded like when he
Oh.
when he was going to crash, it was going to be worse.
Yeah,
That's
well, because
almost
it
what I
was-
thought when Mr.
Oh,
said
yeah.
that.
when they were really dead corpses that they got the juice from. Like that's the
Well-
thing. It's like you're putting something from somebody else's body into your. I don't know. That feels like
Blood is one thing because we've got transfusions, but
Mhm.
anything other than that, just definitely seems a bit much.
Yeah.
Man, well, I think that was a really fun story. Definitely a great one to kick off round B. And yeah, so what we're going to do is we'll be moving on to the next story shortly. But before we do, when we were talking about shout outs and we were talking about ads and ad breaks and what to talk about during this section, it felt like the absolute perfect time for us to share the details of Adventure Right Now, our upcoming Choose Your Own Adventure event. Let me throw this on the stage. This is our thumbnail and banner for it. I'm partnering with Soul. And Soul, I'll let you take it away. Why don't you give an introduction for this, especially with your game studio?
All right. So, of course, I don't even have the document up. So, but basically, Right Now is going to be working with Eclipse Studios, my own indie game studio, for the month of November to create the Adventure Right Now game. And so far, we have two of the polls done, two of the choices made: a mystery thriller in a supernatural world. And we're going to be announcing Monday night what the results of the latest poll were for the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be making during the event, we will actually be making a manuscript for it.
Mm-hmm.
But that manuscript will be written on the first 4 weekends, while the 5th weekend is going to be a live playthrough of the entire game, when I will also post a link for people to play it themselves afterwards. But when we're not doing the live streams, I will be taking the manuscript and I will be turning it into the game in a program called Twine.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I will be taking the manuscript and I will be turning it into the actual game. We are encouraging the community to either give ideas, which if you just give an idea, you will get an inspired by credit at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who want to actually write their own pieces, please feel free to include your own pieces. I will put them into the game as well as I can, while keeping them to your original style as close as possible. I will only change what is absolutely necessary, and you will get a co-author credit whenever we turn it in to NaNoWriMo.
And remember that the goal for NaNoWriMo is 50,000 words. So make sure that you show up. It's going to be every Saturday in the month of November. And whether you just want to show up in the live stream and throw out ideas, or if you want to write parts of the story yourself, we're going to be giving you a form and some guidelines on whether you want to write a single path. And you can write in any genre that you want. So whether you are a romance writer, fantasy, sci-fi, memoir, any of the styles, the individual path you write is going to be based on whatever you love to write. Now, the overall world is going to be supernatural and thriller based on what you voted on with the community. But the individual paths are going to play out based on whatever you feel like is going to be the most fun, that'll contribute to the world. And the great thing is, whatever path you write is going to actually contribute to a special ending. So you actually get to help determine what the ending of the story is going to be, the story and the game. It's such a cool experience. I've never written a choose your own adventure style before, but I've played many, read many, and it's so cool. And I think partnering with Soul was literally the perfect opportunity.
For both of us.
Absolutely. So definitely make sure to come join us in November. We'll probably have the submission link up tomorrow. We just need to finalize some logistics, but we'll have these specific guidelines and the rules up for you guys. So that way you can go read them yourselves. You could sign up and get excited. So that'll be starting next Saturday because we're going to be adventuring right now. All right, guys. And with that ad out of the way, Soul, it's been a pleasure.
As always.
It absolutely loved your reading. It was great talking about our Mr. Necromancer, and you'll be back in the next couple of days, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
All right, so thanks for joining us, my friend.
Yep.
All right, and now we'll be on to the next one. All right, so story number 2. Technically story number 5, but the second story of round B.
I was wondering about your math for a second. I was like,
we're on story number 22.
Wait. That's highly illogical.
Everything's logical.
We have
I was like, I defy logic.
I noticed.
Yeah, maybe this happened after I was trapped by Jezebel in the closet for the early part.
That'll do that to you. It'll bend reality a little bit.
I think Jezebel's a little upset that I
obviously she's mad at you for escaping, because did you see what she did?
I mean, clearly I've never had so many technical difficulties in a single stream, and this is the stream. I'm like, of course.
Yeah, she wanted to be here. She wanted us out of the way. She tried to get you out of the way, and then that didn't work. She's just gonna snap you into oblivion. But no, we persisted. Take that, Jezebel.
Jezebel, take that, and your growing group of minions. I will survive. Oh man. All right. And so now, with that being said, I think it's time to hop into our next story. But before we do, I think it's time to bring on our next guest reader. Yay! Another author that you, the community, are familiar with. One of our friends. I am happy to welcome to the stream, Miss Dana Bell. Welcome, Dana.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate that you were able to make time with your schedule to come and do a live reading.
I'm excited, and then I'm going to be at a convention. I do another reading at a con tomorrow. So,
ooh, that's exciting. So I know obviously you've been around the community for a while, Dana. But for any of our new members here in the live stream who don't know who you are, you want to just give a quick little intro?
Sure. I am Dana Bell. I am a science fiction, fantasy, horror, and paranormal romance writer. I have 6 books out. 2 of them came out this year. I just went and counted them. I have edited 9 anthologies. So
wow. This was right up your alley.
Yeah. So I have launched a lot of writing careers, as I've discovered. And what I don't normally talk about is I'm also an award-winning poet. So,
yay, another poet.
So cool. So cool.
I love that.
Dana, we're gonna have to have you do some of your poetry on the live stream one of these days. Maybe we should do like a poetry-based live stream. We actually have a growing number of poets in the community. That could be something cool to do in the future.
And it would be so exciting. Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean I think that'd be awesome. It's because I always ask myself, when we get other types of writers into the community, like what other writing formats do people really like? And I'm seeing more poets joining the community. We have a mix we have fantasy, sci-fi, we have memoirs, we have children writers, we have graphic novelists, screenwriters, people working on TV scripts, poetry. We're getting the whole range. And I think that's what I love about this community, that it's less about the end. It's less about the end genre, and it's about the storytelling process itself.
Yeah. One of the things I was mentioning earlier to in the group when we were talking, I always recommend poetry classes for anyone in any genre that you're writing, because you learn every single trick of the trade.
Oh yeah. I could totally see that, because I remember taking poetry back in college, and I remember learning so much. I had low expectations because I didn't know anything about poetry, but I remember taking away so much about word choice, like how to style words, how to form words together in ways that I hadn't thought about, because I'm like, okay, poetry, it's just you use less words. It's kind of like a song. And my professor schooled me, let me tell you.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh man, you're like, it's okay. Kaufman did not always know everything. Let me tell you, it took me what was that, 30 years to get here.
Shocked. Absolutely shocked.
You're young yet.
Yes.
Thank you. Or maybe I'll be old soon. I guess we'll have to stick around for tomorrow. So without further ado, let's get on to our next reading. Let me see if I can summon Jezebel from the Aether, and let's do it.
Adaptation by Maurie Last. When a fresh start turns into a nightmare, survival isn't about moving forward, it's about adapting or dying. Mary's chilling story is one you won't forget.
Adaptation by Maurie Last. Some women in my support group suggested I keep a journal. Everyone goes through times like this. After all, you're only human, they said. It's a good way to sort things out. I stared at my 2 lonely lines. August 10th, 1999. I had not known how predictable my life was. Today's only variations were choosing a croissant over a muffin and coffee over a latte. Sighing, I looked around the cafe. I was being stared at. Some weird-looking young blonde and a large man who could have been her uncle stared in my direction, unblinking. We locked eyes for almost half a minute, and a slight dizziness washed over me. Looking away, I put my hand up so I wouldn't see them and pretended to be writing. When I looked again a few minutes later, they were gone. I shivered. That was odd. I wanted some changes, but not creepy ones. I closed my barren journal, finished the coffee, left money on the counter, and rose. I must have stood too fast. Again, for a moment, a dizzy, fainting feeling came over me. Ridiculous. I never faint. The hair on my arms stood up, but I was not in the least bit cold. I shivered again. Did they bother me that much? Exiting the cafe, I nearly ran into Mr. Creep and that woman. Again, the staring eyes bored right into me. Words swirled in a brain fog. We chose you. I squeaked out, "Excuse me?" before hurrying around them. I ran across the street, not daring to look behind. Down a block, right, left, zigzagging around the shoppers. I stopped in the doorway and tried to reassure myself. Of course they aren't following. Don't be stupid. I stared down the street again and walked by an alley I passed daily. It happened in half a heartbeat. Mr. Creep grabbed me. How the hell did he find me and get here so fast? He shoved me against the wall, holding me there with overwhelming strength. I opened my mouth to scream, but inside my head was the only place it was heard. Those eyes. What was it about those eyes? My will gone. I couldn't move. I couldn't throw up. Why me? Over his shoulder, I saw the girl smiling. Joni flashed into my mind. Her name was Joni. He forced me to look at him. Tobias. Oh, dear God, his breath was disgusting. Could those be? I hoped whatever was to happen would be quick. He made no demands. For the first time in my life, I prayed. Joni stood there with her Mona Lisa smile. My head was forced sideways. Sharp teeth pierced my neck. Sensations went into overdrive. Every nerve silently screamed. I was so cold. My life was being taken, but something so hot filled the void. No! Flitted through my mind before I passed out. My brain did cartwheels as I woke up. not dead, but movement, being carried. God, the horrific smell. Retching at the acrid air, I was put on a cot, fading in and out for who knows how long. I was so weak, thirsty, hungry, and sick to my stomach. When I dared to open my eyes, Joni looked unreal, like a wax figure from a museum. Her arm was cut. She was very much alive. Something about it? Kiss and make it better? No, that was sick. She was guided over to me. Her arm was placed near my mouth. Not a kiss, a taste, metallic and sticky. What was I doing? God, no! Joni! A repulsive yet primordial desire drove me. The room spun, and there went the lights again. Mental journal entry, August, who knows, 1999. I think I'm losing my mind. Laughter woke me. Tobias' words rang out. She's a natural. More laughter. No, damn it! There was nothing natural about any of this. Dull as it was, I had a life I wanted, plans, dreams, and yet they were laughing? Was it hours or days? Time was losing all meaning. Time was losing all meaning. Did it matter? She was so pretty, Joni. Somehow my compassion was not as strong as it might have been, should have been, had been. A little pity, perhaps. Not the arm this time, no. Her neck was bare, an artery pulse calling to me. Yes, my sweet, my mind screamed, no! My teeth bit. I had never felt so hungry. She was hideously delicious. This was a detestable version of tender steak and fine wine. The hunger was satisfied. I came to know a new definition of afterglow. Tobias came in again. This time, there was no resistance. Willingly, I offered my throat. Cold drained away and warmth, death interjected. He took more, the more I wanted to give. Yes, I'm yours. No sleep now. Glorious nightmare. Joni was brought in one last time, not yet healed. Her scent drove me to her. I smiled, licked my lips. Even with glazed eyes and pale skin, she was beautiful. In a mist of memory, I knew I had never been attracted to another woman. But it wasn't her I wanted. It was only what she had to offer. A quench to my thirst. She would be handled as gently as a porcelain doll. If I had any emotion left, it might be called kindness. I caressed her arm as I drew her to me. I savored the saltiness of her skin, mixed with what would now be my sustenance. Any last glimmer of my humanity was extinguished. Tobias nearly smiled as he said to one I hadn't noticed before, "We chose well." "Indeed," said the stranger. After one final exchange with Tobias, I was deemed ready to share my new gift. A blind acceptance that could never be understood, and an empty peace. Final entry. Dates no longer matter. Not predictable. No longer human.
Dana, you did such justice to that character and that story as a reader. You must do readings every once in a while.
Yeah, I do. Every trick I learned in a college class called oral interpretation. And I've had over 10 years to practice what I learned.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So,
no wonder. I'm not surprised. You literally, you did such a good job.
thank
I
you.
was like, yeah. So like, thank you for that reading. That was awesome. And now with the adaptation still on our mind, we're going to hop into a live discussion of it. If you're here in the live stream community, what did you like about it? What really stood out? What resonated? Did this feel like the vampire story for you? What about these vampires were mesmerizing? There were so many different facets of it. Drop a comment. We would love to hear from you. Dates no longer matter is solid. So as we're thinking about it, Dana, what I love is that we've seen so many vampire stories, right? We've seen it time and time and time again. So when we touch upon a supernatural character, the trick is, how do we do something different? And I think this almost felt like it was kind of a traditional vampire story, but done in a way that still felt like it was fresh, like it was happening to this young woman who was kind of trying to find inspiration to write, which I like. Like we kind of get a writer vibe there, which is kind of cool. What stood out to you? Was there something that really resonated with you?
When I read the story, it drew me in because there were so many possibilities the direction the story could go. When I got to the end of it, I went, good job. And I was thinking about that tonight after I was actually practicing, and I went, if this woman sent me a story, I'd take it. Point blank, that was so good that if you sent me a story and I had an anthology open, I'd take it. No problem.
I think Maurie, our author, Maurie Last, if you're here in the live stream, it's a really good call. That's quite an honor, especially Dana, with how much experience you have with anthologies and with stories. That is so cool. Mary's another one of our community members. So that's really, really awesome. Let's see. So I was like, I think what I really liked the most about this is that it starts off in a cafe. It starts off in this like very normal setting, and you get the foreshadow with like the creepy people. When you first read this, did you know, or did you think that it was going to be vampires?
I didn't know what she was going to do with it.
Mm-hmm. And but I think it was a great call. Like, I think the way she went about it was awesome.
Yeah. It's like, I didn't know what she was going to do. And like, this story could go so many different ways. Let's find out what she's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found out it was a vampire story, I'm like, ooh, love it.
Like right up your alley, right?
Oh, totally up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I read a lot of paranormal romances. My favorite is vampires. But I've also recently read a new vampire book that was the traditional scary, they are not nice people.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's so many different ways you can tackle vampires in a story. Mm-hmm. And I think what I liked about this way is that obviously, like, the vampires, like, they're killing her in a sense, right, to become a vampire. But the way it's done is it's almost done in a very, like, and this almost feels like one of, like, the kindest, like, vampire, like, transformations I've seen before. Like, I don't know if kind's the right word, but I'm like, there's a word, because there's a lot of vampire stories where when they get turned into a vampire, it's like very intense. It's very gruesome. It's very bloody. But this felt like it was like a transition, but it also felt like it was meant to happen to this character, because they were still like, they were trying to figure out their life. They were stuck. They had no type of inspiration. And this was the thing that was meant to happen to them. And they embraced it essentially.
Yep, definitely that. I noticed that in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And the different change and the fact that we're going from being human to something not quite human.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest question is, who was the figure in the background that we actually didn't get to see?
I know. It's almost like Maurie set us up with a foreshadow for the next part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So like I want to know, who was that?
I know who was like, who was that, like the big bad vampire? Is that like part of like a deeper coven? Like, or maybe they're not even a vampire. We're assuming vampires because they're all together, but
Assuming.
who knows in a supernatural world, right? I think it's easy to assume they're all vampires. But yeah, I don't know, because I don't think there were enough details to determine who that figure was.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. I've written flash fiction,
Mm-hmm.
and I know how difficult it is. I have a story that's 664 words, which is a complete story.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's hard. It really is. I know, especially a lot of the writers in our community, they were really struggling with, like, you need to tell a full story, but you're going to feel limited by the word count.
Yep. Yep. And I run into that a lot with authors is you have X amount of words that you can do. If you're going to want to do anything more than that, you have to ask me. And on occasion, I will say yes, if I know the writer and if I know they will deliver. Sorry, I'm also speaking both as a reader and an editor and a writer kind of all at once.
Oh yeah, that's great, especially because you're so experienced with flash fiction. That's great. Yeah, and I think that's just literally such an honor. What do you think is the hardest part about trying to write a story like this?
Oof.
Do you think it's like the word count, or do you think it's more like I got to have a whole plot that actually makes sense? I got to do something that feels unique. I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I wrote a story about a cat vampire who plays a prank on Halloween. And
that sounds fun.
It's an interesting story, and I read it at Mile High Con a few years back, and one of our local authors kind of looked at me and went, like, "Who are you?" Because it was not something he had thought of or even imagined. And so when I get that kind of compliment out of a pro, that means a lot. They just look at you and go, "Who are you?" Why don't I know who you are? Kind of thing. But it really is that doing that quick story with all the details, with the description, with everything that you need to tell that story, doing it in such a way that it feels complete without feeling like there should be more. And that's having the poetry background comes in, because you know how to use every single word that you put in that story.
You can do less with more, or more with less.
Yeah, or less is more is what we're really looking for. So sorry, I'm talking nonstop here.
No, you're totally all good, because I think it just goes to show your expertise in it. So I think with that, I feel like that was a very good initial discussion in it. Thank you all for joining and being involved in the discussion. Now, before we move on to our next story, Dana, I wanted to give you a chance to shout out, because I know what are you working on right now, or what did you want to call out?
That's a good question. I'm actually working on 3 books. One is the final book to, which I'm going to be asked about. I already know tomorrow when I talk to my publisher. One is the final book in what I call the Winter Trilogy, called Winter. The first 2 are Winter Awakening and Winter Emergence. And Winter Emergence is the one that came out this year, like 11 plus years after the first one came out. Long story why that happened. I'm also working on the second book, After Homefall Search, which is the other book that also came out, and it does not have a title yet. And I'm also, I did a pitch during Realm Makers for a middle grade book, which the title of now is Kit's Lighthouse Adventures. And she actually took the story. She said, "I want to see it when you're done." She took it without it being completed, and believe me when I say that never happens.
Really?
That never.
That's like such a rarity.
It's a very rarity, and the only reason she did is she already knew who I was. So I'm working on all 3 of those right now, along with some short story things I want to do. And I'm thinking about pitching an anthology to my publisher tomorrow, but I haven't decided yet.
Wow, that's really cool. So what? So you said you're pitching it to your publisher.
Thinking about doing it. I'd like to.
Okay.
It's something that came out of a running joke at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote like this little short little thing that was like an action adventure type silly thing just for my teammates. And then I went, yeah, this should make a really good anthology. And you've never done an action and adventure. So,
Oh man. Well, I think that's going to be really cool. Like clearly you're very, very experienced. And I always, always, always love having you in the community. I know for anybody that wants to go check you out more, you shared you're over on YouTube as well. That we can send people over to your YouTube. So definitely go check out Dana on YouTube, on her YouTube channel. It's linked down in the description down below. And let me also throw it down in the comments. What do you do on your channel? You do live readings, right?
I've got some live readings on there. There's also a presentation that I did for JordanCon one year. I was supposed to go, and they had asked me to do this presentation, and I had a very bad accident on the ice that kept me from going. But I went ahead and did the video for them, and they were absolutely thrilled. So
wow. So that was really cool. And I know I can tell a lot of the people here in the community really, really enjoyed your reading of it.
So I could tell from a lot of the comments that were popping up.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, definitely I just threw your YouTube channel down in the chat. It's also down in the YouTube description below. If you're here in the live stream and you want to go check out Dana, you want to see more of her live readings, like clearly Dana's awesome at it, then definitely go subscribe, go join her over on her YouTube channel. And Dana, I'm sure we'll see you around. You usually hop on and join us on the writer groups, on the Wednesday writers group every once in a while.
Every once in a while, we are swamped right now. And so,
I get it. We're hitting that time of the year too. Like I know how many deadlines you're under.
Yeah, let's see. I'm working full time, and I've got all these other things going on, and I'm sitting here going, ah!
Yeah, and you're probably trying to have some type of life with that, like the true test of a writer.
Yeah, how do you balance everything? And the truth is, something always has to give.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's this life you guys are talking about?
Like what life? People always ask me. They're like, so when do you take time for yourself, or what do you like to do in your free time? And I'm like, what free time? I work 16 hours a day, and I love doing it. I was like, can I do this forever? No, but I'm happy with where I'm at right now.
Yeah, you sound like me. I am completely content and happy with my life.
Mm-hmm. So. Exactly. We're the ones who get to determine what the right work-life balance is for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, but thank you so much for joining us today, Dana. We're going to be moving on to our next story. Mm-hmm. You are awesome.
Thank you. All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye, Dana. All right, Penelope. So, wow. 5 stories. And we're about to move on to the final story of round B.
I know. It's
so man. I was like, I really don't know which of the stories in this round is going to be crowned the winner. I really don't know. They're
so solid. They're so exciting. Yeah, I just don't know either. And the readings have been so good so far. So it's just been, I'm just happy to be able to like listen to them. It's my spooky story time.
I know, right? It's like, I feel like I'm getting into the Halloween vibe here. I feel like I'm really getting into it. Like, I want to hear from the live stream community. How are you guys feeling about the stories so far? Yeah. Like, we have such a range of stories. Like, when I think back about the 5, right? So we had we had werewolf, shapeshifter, creature type story.
With Rise.
Yep. We had a ML story. Yeah. We had the evil father killing the 2 children story.
Right. And the children killing each other. Everybody dies.
Right. And then we literally had the everybody dies story. Literally everybody
dies. Except for that
dies.
one guy who has to deal with it or not. He might already be
Or maybe
dead.
He's alive or dead. And then we go straight into a different genre with our necromancer drug dealer.
The necromancer drug dealer.
Mr. Necromancer? What a cool character.
Mr.
I feel like Mr. Necromancer would probably do very well with Jezebel.
I think so. I think they would probably team up really nicely.
Yeah, they probably would. I feel like I might see a team up in the future. And then straight into our vampire story. So clearly we've had quite a variety. And let me tell you, this next one is once again, we're going to be upping the stakes and challenging you with a different reading experience. So with that being said, let me now welcome to the stream, for those of you who've hopped into some of our streams, those of you who've seen the podcast before, let me welcome my friend, Miss Holly Davis. Welcome, Holly.
Hello, hello.
Your hair's blue.
Yes.
Oh my God, your hair's so blue. I'm like, what's your Halloween costume? I am
It's
blue.
not a mask.
Abadi.
It's just temporary, yes, to celebrate my book. I was testing out the colors, so.
Wait, you have a book coming out?
That matches your hair?
It's blue, so
Which is absolutely cool. We'll definitely do a plug for the book after the reading, but I think the hair color was a really good call. It's making me realize that whenever I get to the Scarecrow release, maybe I should dye my beard.
Yes, do it.
I never would have thought
here
about
for
doing
it.
that. I'm like so inspired
Yes.
by you right now.
Yes.
Okay. Glue and straw. Tap it in.
That does not sound comfortable at all.
So
Overtone.
Do it for the book launch.
the launch. Yes.
Do it for the
Do
book
it for
launch.
the launch.
All right, my friends. I think our audience is probably super excited and ready for the last story in round B. So without further ado, let me make sure I got everything squared away here. We're going to try this time. We're going to try to see if I can summon Miss Jezebel from the Aether. I don't know if you've been watching the live stream, Holly, but Jezebel is, we've been duking it out over the stream today.
Yes, I was very impressed. I was able to see some of it.
Yeah.
Some of it before I came on. I was like, whoa, she is on it.
So without further ado, I'm going to try to summon Miss Jezebel.
Short of Breath by Irene. Marissa thought passing the hitchhiker was her safest option, but in Irene's pulse-pounding tale, that may have been her biggest mistake yet.
Short on breath. I'm okay to start reading.
Yeah, I was like, my mic's muted. So straight on, and you're welcome to start whenever you're ready.
Awesome. The rumble strip jolts me awake. My knuckles turn white as I swerve back onto the road. Thunder booms overhead. My heart pounds against my chest. I squint, trying to find a mile marker in the darkness. Besides my one working headlight, nothing else illuminates the night. No other cars are on the road. Rain pours in droves. My windshield wipers strain to keep up. An obscured highway sign tells me I'm hundreds of miles from my destination. I glance at the clock on the dashboard. Exhaustion weighs heavy on my body and my eyes droop. 3:01 a.m. A second sign advertises a gas station and rest stop off the exit a mile ahead. I bite my lip and calculate what cash is left in my wallet and if it's worth it to stop. The low fuel warning light flashing on my dashboard decides for me. I sigh and flip the blinker on. The rain subsides as I pull off the exit. Potholes filled with water riddle the road. I do my best to avoid them and silently curse my roommate Heather for insisting I come up for the cabin getaway despite my finals running long. Only 3 days remain of fall break. Rosary beads swing from my rearview mirror as the road curves towards the forest. The trees swallow me whole. My breath crystallizes in the air. I turn up the heat, but it doesn't kick on like most things in my car. A shiver racks my body. The trees curl over the road. Their branches claw and threaten to entrap anything that comes too close. My headlights reflect off the sheen of water and a lone figure standing on the side of the road. A woman who appears to be in her early 20s, maybe a few years younger than myself, holds out her thumb, signaling for a ride. Mud clings to her calves and lines the edge of her white sundress. Her ebony hair is matted. I frown. She's less than equipped to be out in this weather. I don't slow, and guilt knots my stomach. I keep my eyes forward as I pass. If I stop, there's no telling if my car will start again. That's what I tell myself. I refuse to acknowledge the darker thoughts. I glance in the rearview mirror, but she's gone. The hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. All remnants of my exhaustion vanish. Focusing ahead, I round another bend, and the gas station comes into view. It's an island of light in a sea of night. I park and slide out of the car. A fog hangs over the area, spilling out from the forest. I watch the edge, but nothing moves. An unnatural silence hangs in the air. I pull out my wallet and turn to the gas pump. A sign hangs off, reading "See cashier to pay." I peer over my shoulder. Faint blue light is emanated from the store, and an open sign is lit in the window. The cashier reads at the counter. I lock my car and head in. The door chimes as I step inside. "Don't disturb the salt," the cashier grumbles, his attention focused on his book. I furrow my brow. On the floor, lines of salt encircle the store, blocking off different sections and aisles. I'm ready to question it when I remember the woman on the road, or lack thereof. I shake my head and duck through the aisles, treading so as not to disturb the salt. I grab snacks and an energy drink before returning to the cash register. The clerk grunts as I set my items on the counter, along with a wad of cash. 10 on pump 3, please. He sets aside his book. His eyes flit to the title, a book on repelling the supernatural, as he scans my items. A string of rosary beads wraps around his wrists. I press my lips tight. A screen flickers behind him, broadcasting the local news. A picture of a young woman in her early 20s fills the screen. It's captioned by the title, "Missing Woman." There's something familiar in her stare. Goose flesh crawls across my arms. I glance out the window behind the cashier, towards the edge of the woods. "Miss?" It takes me a moment to register the cashier's voice. "Sorry, what?" He nods to my items. "You're good to go." "Oh, right. Sorry." He follows my gaze to the television as 3 other women's pictures appear on the screen. Victims of Lakeshore Strangler. Movement catches in my periphery. The visage of 3 women hovers on the edge of the salt line outside the window. Blood mats their hair, and bruises mar their necks. Their mouths hang open in perpetual screams. I jump, knocking my items across the counter. I blink. They're gone. The cashier smirks and cocks his head at me. "You know, you could be their twin. Better watch out." My blood runs cold. He chuckles. "I'm just messing with you." His gaze shifts to my car before coming back to me. The cashier flashes me a grin. "Stay safe out there." I swipe my items off the counter and race for the car. His laugh follows me. My hands tremble as I open the door and throw my items on the passenger seat. I hit the lock and jam my key into the ignition. I crane my neck to check behind me as I shift it into reverse. My breath hitches. Across my back windshield is a message written in the fog. He's watching. The defrost kicks on, taking the message with it. I peel out of the gas station, my pulse thrums in my ears. The car engine revs as I accelerate. I'm down the street when the low fuel indicator blinks. I curse and slap my hands against the wheel. I take a deep breath. "You're getting psyched out over nothing." I'll be at the cabin with the others in a few hours, laughing as I recount my paranoia. I slow to make a U-turn. There's standing water up ahead. A dark figure darts in front of me. I slam on the brakes, and the wheel is jerked from my grasp. My seatbelt pulls taut before my head bashes against the wheel. Smoke and the scent of gasoline burn in my nostrils as I come to. Warm liquid trickles from my brow. My seatbelt digs into my shoulder, and my long black hair hangs before my face. I blink. The world comes into focus. My headlight illuminates the forest. My car is bent around a tree. I unclick the seatbelt and force the door open. Sharp pains pierce my side as I climb out into the brush. My foot catches on something soft. A groan escapes my lips as I land onto my hands and knees. I stumble to my feet and glance over my shoulder. The corpse of a woman in a white dress, her hair matted with blood, lays on the ground before me. Her glassy eyes stare up at me, frozen in panic. Bruises blossom around her neck, where familiar beads are strung tight. Behind her, smeared in blood across my windshield, run. My hands clasp over my mouth. A twig snaps behind me. A scream bubbles in my throat, but it's cut short as beads tangle around my neck and I'm dragged into the woods.
You did such a good job of reading that in such a way that felt like suspense. I was kind of on the edge of my seat the entire time. And I've read the story before, and I was still on. I'm like, she's gonna make it this time. Wait.
Thanks. I know. I was like, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be a different ending. It has to be.
Well, Holly, you absolutely did an incredible job with that reading. Thank you so much. And for our community here in the live stream, what did you think about it? What did you like? What really stood out to you? What do you think that she escaped, or was this the end of her story? Drop a comment. We would love to hear from you, because after our discussion, we'll be voting on the round B stories. Whew, man, Megan. Yes, Megan, absolutely. It was cool. And I mean, like, Megan's the author, so clearly you did a really good job.
Yes, it was so good.
I think what I really appreciated about this story is, like, I've always been a horror buff, so I've seen so many horror movies, scary horror, throughout my life. And when I think about the serial killer genre, the story's almost set up to be a ghost story, which kind of is ghost story, but it's a little bit more serial killer, I think, than ghost story, even though you technically have the ghost showing up there. Yeah, because technically you have the other victims, and I think it's this really cool crossroads between supernatural, between ghost and killer, which is cool.
Yeah.
I remember when I was first reading it, I didn't catch that the beads that he uses at the very end, or whoever uses, I think was the same beads from the guy at the gas station.
Yeah,
I was like, I missed that.
But at first, like, reading it, I thought it was gonna be like the women, because I'm like, well, this is really creepy. Like, they're the one, that woman is the one who is the ghost or whoever. And then it wasn't until, like, after the crash that I was like, it's the shopkeeper.
Like, it's always the shopkeeper.
Yes,
no. But I mean, he was kind of set up to be like, okay, well, maybe he was that's right, the salt. He was trying to protect himself against his victims.
Oh,
I just realized that. Wow, that took me. I was like, I literally just realized that. I thought the salt was in the gas station because to protect from the spirit. He was literally trying to protect himself as the serial killer from the victims, who are like, clearly they were not very happy with him.
That's so good.
Yeah, I was like, wow, because that was a very poignant moment, and they called out the salt in the gas station liquor store a couple times.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
And it's interesting because the character, our protagonist, makes such a point that their car is out of gas. They literally spend the first half of the story getting there because they're out of gas, and then they're literally so scared that they drive away. And I think this is such a perfect example of how do you really leverage the plot and, like, the tension of the moment to literally make it worse for her. She literally could have gotten gas, driven away, never crashed, and she would have been fine. But because of the fear of the ghosts, because of the guy, the serial killer himself, because of the gas station, it felt like every moment was leading towards that. Leading towards her unfortunate crash.
Yeah. I loved all the descriptions too, like how the and how the defrost made the message go away. Like that.
Yeah,
was...
and that's such a scary movie thing. Holly,
Yes.
do you watch his scary movies at all?
Yes, I love
Yes,
I
okay.
love being scared. Like
Yes.
I get scared. I'm not someone who's like, haha, this is like fake. I get scared, but that's how I grew up. So watching
I know, I have
Thriller
too.
and Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, that's what I grew up watching. So
Yeah, same. I think one of my first scary movies was watching in a rainstorm with my sister, watching The Ring. And I don't know if you've seen The Ring, but The Ring is about the TV monster.
yes.
And the TV, we kept losing power. So it was like the creepiest thing ever. And I really thought the monster the chick was going to walk out of the TV when the power came back on, because that was the movie we were watching. I would like not turn on the TV for like a few days. I was like,
you have to watch them all always in the dark.
But I think what this story did really well with the horror elements was, like you said, the fogging. I think it also did kind of that like creepy, it had that vibe from the very beginning of even when we're first introduced to her.
Yeah.
Like we had the kind of not broken down car, but just car not in great condition.
Yeah.
And she's just taking a break. They mentioned the finals. So she was just taking a break from school, or she had just finished up, and she wasn't even supposed to be going on the trip originally.
Right. Oh,
or trope.
Even more tragic. Yeah. Just that, like, keep throwing one thing after another at the character. She didn't make it easy on her.
My real question, Holly, and this question goes out to you as well, live stream community. Did she survive? Does she survive? Or do you think she ends up next to the other 4 ghosts outside? They're camping outside the gas station waiting for somebody to break the salt line.
I think she won't. I think she'll be the 4th ghost, but she'll succeed in properly warning the next person.
But her friends, and this feels like the setup to the next story, technically her friends are expecting her, right? Like her friends are technically expecting her at the party.
Yes, that's
so
right.
Like when she doesn't respond, or when they're like, hey, where'd you go? That will technically lead to them eventually searching for her, right? Since she committed to going with and since her character was very much focused on school, it leads me to believe that her character is very much education focused, which means she's probably a reliable character, reliable character.
Yeah.
Which makes me think the friends will probably start searching sooner.
So true. Oh, I need a part 2.
I know. We're like, Megan, let us know when the part 2 is. So many of these stories had such excellent foreshadowing and elements, and we're leading us up into like, okay, we're ready for the next story. So I think that was really, really awesome. And let's see, with our timing, I think, Holly, everyone's probably super excited for that time of the stream. I think everyone is very, very actively engaged because it's time for our round B voting. It is time for round B voting. So I think this is going to be the perfect opportunity for us to start voting on this round. Let me pull up the stories, and then we'll start the voting, Holly, and then we'll chat about Diamond.
Sounds good.
I'm so excited about your hair choice.
Thank you.
Okay. So for those of you who have been eagerly awaiting, we are voting on the second 3 stories out of the 4 rounds of the flash fiction competition. Now, as we think about the last 3 stories, we had our Creepy Necromancer with Mr. by Orian and our Addict Seeking Serum A. Our second story brought us to Adaptation with our lovely writer who unfortunately turned to a life of vampirism. Vampiric writer, I approve. As long as they're a writer, I do approve. And then, of course, bringing up our third option, Short on Breath by Irene. Absolutely awesome. And I feel like this is going to be this is going to be a hard decision. Yeah. This is going to be a very, very difficult decision because each of those stories are completely different. So let me throw up the timer so that way everyone knows what we're doing. Let me throw up the timer. Sometimes it takes me a second to get my life together on a live stream. I'm sure you can relate.
Yes, me always.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to start the round B voting. You're going to have exactly, let's see, you're going to have exactly 10 minutes to vote. You're going to have 10 minutes to vote for round B. All right. So without further ado, let's drop the voting. Follow the link. Click on the link because it is time. Let me make sure I got this. Clearly, I'm going to hype it up very, very well. I was like, we're almost time. It's almost time. Which one should I vote on? And let me grab the link because it's time to vote now. All right, keep those. Start voting on which one was your favorite story. Let me drop it also in Facebook so you can vote as well. So definitely bring in your votes. Come vote with us. Which story do you think should be crowned the winner of round B? We got 10 minutes. Get your friends to vote. Get yourself to vote and make sure to vote on which story was your favorite. Oof, man. I was like,
close.
I'm eager. I really want to know who's going to win.
Me too.
Like all three of them were very equally good, equal contenders.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be close. I know it.
You're like, I absolutely love her comments. Tyson just like, let me vote. I was like, I have to build up suspense first. And excellent. So keep your votes in. Start voting. I dropped the link down in the chat. We got 10 minutes. Now, in the meantime, while we're waiting for the votes to come in, Diamond, Bright, and Broken. You have very blue hair. Why is your hair blue?
My hair is blue to promote. Well, this is to make sure that it looks good before my release party. Okay. But it's because my book, A Diamond, Bright, and Broken, is releasing in a week and a half, November 5th.
No,
yes.
Wait, it's coming out on November 5th?
Yes, there was
you saw the other author.
Yes.
Yeah, author Guthron. Guthron, he is also coming out on 5th. So whether you want a dark, creepy story that was Guthron's, or maybe you want something that's a little bit more fantastical. And this one has one of the coolest magic abilities I think I've seen in a story before. I know I haven't read it yet. I know that from what you've explained of the plot and the core story and the magic, I love the magic. We have a bunch of magic nerds in this community as it pertains to magic and the fantasy genre. So I think that's super cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that means a lot.
Is there anything you can share about Diamond, Bright, and Broken for
our so community? This magic system, which evolves, you get to see more of it in the sequel, which I am working on. But the main character, Cadence, has the ability to cry diamonds, which her parents abuse to rise up the royal ranks and kind of guilt trip her by using that money to pay for her ill sister's care. Mm-hmm. But she ends up being able to go to the king's masquerade and finds out that there is more to her power than she expected. And that sets her off on a journey that you will have to read A Diamond, Bright, and Broken to find out.
What a great do we get to is there anything that you ever get to share with your community about the magic power?
I haven't.
Does it spoil?
No. Well, yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. Yeah. You really have to read it to find out. You're finding out when Cadence does in the book,
which I love that, and I think that's a great strategy because it builds up hype around the book itself.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Oh, definitely very cool. Let's see. Let me go pull up the link. We have the link for A Diamond, Bright, and Broken over with Holly coming out once again. That's a week and a half on November 5th.
Yes.
So while you're waiting in line, doing what you do on the 5th, here's another book to check out. Go pre-order it right now, coming out on the 5th. And on the 5th, which editions are coming out?
It is
So
the ebook and the hardcover. If you that links to like all the places that you can buy or pre-order the book, but I specifically have that link because if you submit your pre-order receipt on the website, you also get these character art cards. So that's why it's like you still have time. These awesome character art cards that my publisher got.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, so I'm partial to the hardcover because of the under the dust jacket, the embossed emblems, which I'm just like obsessed with.
Yeah, I love that. I remember when I had when we
and
were
you'll
with
find
Zara.
out what this is.
I remember when we were with Zara. I want to know how you did that. Like, I want to do that for my books. That is the coolest thing ever.
I know. And so yeah, now I'm obsessed with it. Like that's like the first thing I do when I get a new book is I look to see if there's something under
if there's
the
something
dust
on the cover, especially for the
Yes.
hardback.
Yeah.
Man, well, beyond the cool cover, is there any other reasons to buy the hardback copy?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I always forget there is a well, also there is this really cool map that we have here, but then in the hardcover that's not in the ebook, you get a special exclusive bonus chapter from a different character's point of view. Let's see, I covered up the person's name, but here. Yeah, my publisher was like, "Oh, you can just write a scene," and I'm like, "It's actually a chapter." But this character, like beta readers and my critique partners, like loved this character, and
really?
their point of view will be showing up in the sequel. So
Ooh, that's great, great job listening to your readers.
Yes, yeah. So I'm super like proud and excited of the book, and I know you will love it.
Well, Holly, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm definitely hope if for anybody who's interested in that genre, for anybody who wants to know what the power is, for anybody who wants to go check it out, or maybe you just want the hardcover with the cool design. I want all the above. Definitely go check it out. I dropped the link down in the YouTube description, and it also or in the YouTube chat, and then it'll also be down in the YouTube description as well. So definitely go check it out. Especially if you want to go check out Holly's writing, it will be very cool and a much better alternative to some other things.
Thank you so much.
All right, Holly. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today.
It was
has been
so
an
much fun.
Absolutely awesome reading, and I'm very intrigued. I'm intrigued by your book, and then I'm also intrigued by who's going to win.
Yes, me too. Thank you for having me. It was so fun to do the reading, and I'm excited to see who wins and hear more stories.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Holly. And
Thanks.
I'm sure we'll see you around on some of our writers groups sometimes.
Most definitely.
Awesome.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Bye.
Bye. Aw,
All right.
Wonderful.
So going straight on to, we're on round B. And let's see,
We
what's your
are.
clock at? Ooh, 2
really?
minutes. You got 2.5 minutes to vote before round B polling ends. Oh man, I'm so hyped. I am definitely so hyped about this.
I know.
I know we've been looking forward to this moment for a while now.
Yes.
Right? And I can't believe that we've already gone through the first 6 stories, and I have enjoyed every single story, even though I've already read them, various versions, and edited multiple times. I'm still enjoying the live reading. And I think that's partially like the credit to our readers as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've just brought a really dynamic element to the story itself. And each one of them really I feel like they really got something out of, but like there was a part of it that they understood, and they were able to bring that to the reading, and it made it even more exceptional in its presentation. I have just so enjoyed listening to these stories.
You're like listening. Well, you can probably hear better now then, because you are an elf.
Elvish Vulcan. That's correct.
Okay. You're like, I'll call you whatever I want. I'm crazy.
Oh yeah, no, it has been such a good Freaky Friday. I think that I don't know about anybody else, but it has totally inspired me to be in the mood for Halloween. It's totally gotten my need for you just need your fix. You just need that scared. You need to be scared a little bit sometimes. I think it helps us to feel more alive or something. And anything that kind of dips into that and that makes you realize that fear is just it's such a thrill, How much time do we have left on the
all right, let's see. We have 38 seconds. So hurry up and get your votes in. We got 30 seconds left before voting closes. Eli's like, I want to go watch the live. That's the mood I'm in now. Watch that day's a great one.
They live, yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, I kind of want to know now, like, what horror movies are people going to be watching in the community? That I would actually love to know, especially for Halloween.
Yeah. Within the next week.
Okay. But voting ends 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the polls for voting round B are closed. My friends. So, man, that was pretty cool.
That was
awesome. So that's the end of round B, isn't it?
It is. That is the end of round B.
Wow.
We made it.
We made it. So, I mean, the competition's over now, right? It's like we're all done.
What?
Yeah, I was like, what? Wait, hold on. So we had 6 stories that were voted on today. Yes. And I was like, I kind of want to know which ones are the winners. I was like, I kind of want to know. I was like, yeah. I was like, all right, wait, which ones?
Are you no?
I was like, okay, what if I just tell everyone like what the winner?
I have a message for you, Kaufman. You may not announce the winners yet.
All right. I won't announce the winners quite yet.
Skull, that is rude. You don't tell people that stuff that close to the camera, okay? You might scare them. Are you okay? She'll lock you in the closet again. You didn't like it the first time. You won't like it the second time.
I'm not doing too well with Jezebel. I give up. I give up. We'll announce the winners tomorrow. We'll announce the winners tomorrow. Oh, man. Oof.
You really got her attention, didn't you?
Clearly, I'm not going to be doing very well if I try to announce the winners, which means that you're going to have to tune in for Spooky Saturday for us to crown the winner. And we're going to be going with round C and round D. Let me pull up the schedule for tomorrow.
Sweet.
So for those of you, come join us back tomorrow for the next round of the competition. We'll be starting with our day 2 of our Discord costume party. Make sure that you come join us in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord yet, it is super active. We got writing games, writing conversation, and writing motivation. So if you're ever struggling to write, we got people every day. And we're going to be starting tomorrow. These are all Pacific times with the WriteNow Discord. So if you haven't joined already, definitely come join us. Let me throw this down in the chat, also down in the YouTube description below. But it's time to hop in the Discord right now. All right. And this is our schedule for tomorrow. Super stoked. So we're going to be doing all 3 stories for round C. Devilish Secrets of the Old Walls, Laughing in the Dark, and The Unusual Suspect. And clearly, I forgot which letter to put on there. So we'll actually go into round C. I could have sworn that this was right before. I think Jezebel's messing with me.
It was definitely not me.
And so this will clearly be voting for round C. And then round D, we'll be hearing the stories, a story about some bugs, Night of the Hillbilly, and The Lost Scarecrow. So make sure to come join us, whether you're going to hop in and join us in the Discord for the costume party or come back to the stream tomorrow on Spooky Saturday. I was like, I guess I should probably drop the Spooky Saturday link. That
you might want to.
It's probably a good call.
That would be logical.
That would be what would be logical.
I was just happy I actually got to use it in the correct context.
For what there's no logic. There's no rhyme or reason to what we do.
Fascinating.
Fascinating. There's no logic. Emotion. Play into emotion. All right. And then let me drop this. So down in the YouTube, down in the description, it'll be both down in the YouTube description and down in the chat is the link for Spooky Saturday. So definitely come back. Come join us tomorrow for round C and round D. And don't forget, we're going to be announcing the winners at 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. So if you want to come tune in, see, you got me, Skull. You got me. I won't say anything. I promise. I won't say anything. I don't want to be locked in the closet tonight or tomorrow. Jezebel. I feel like for the rest of the year, I'm just going to be like, Jezebel.
It's going to be Jezebel's fault forever now.
It's going to be, and clearly I'm going to be punished forever. So definitely make sure to tune in tomorrow for our Spooky Saturday. We'll be back. Today has definitely been an absolutely great live stream. Thank you all for joining us. It has been absolutely incredible. And I think without further ado,
Is it time?
Well, Darklings, what a night it's been. From bone-chilling thrills to twisted imagination, our contestants have left us all trembling in our boots. But don't get too comfortable. The terror has only just begun. Tonight's stories have been horrifyingly delightful, and I hope you've enjoyed every sinister second of it. But, darlings, the fun isn't over yet. Tomorrow night, we return for the Spooky Saturday finale. Get some rest, if you can.